The expert comes down the mountain, my stunning senior sister. Master, it's bad, little junior brother is missing. On Longhu Mountain, Yun Ying looked at Zhang Tianshi, who was meditating with his eyes closed, her face full of worry. Let him go. Zhang Tianshi, a true master, remained calm and unhurried, not a trace of panic in his demeanor. As the Grand Master of a generation, Zhang Tianshi had many disciples, but most of them had already gone off after completing their training. Now, only Yun Ying and his closed-door disciple, Yan Qian, remained by his side. Xiao Ying, this child, Xiao Qian, has extraordinary talent, his potential for cultivation even greater than anyone we've seen before. But he's still too young, unable to fully focus. That's why his cultivation has stalled. This experience in the mortal world might be an opportunity for him to break through. But Yun Ying began, but then hesitated, not finishing her sentence. Zhang Tianshi understood her concerns. He sighed deeply and said, I know you worry about his safety. If you really can't let it go, you can go down the mountain and look for him. But master, if I leave, what will happen to you? Who will take care of you? Yun Ying voiced her concern. Those of us on the path of cultivation have our fates determined by destiny. Everything happens for a reason. Go, and don't worry about me. Yun Ying wiped away her tears, about to leave when Zhang Tianshi called out to her. Xiao Qian is afflicted by the peach blossom curse. The one who tied the knot must also be the one to untie it. As for you, marriage is destined. Don't cling to it. Everything will come in time. Upon hearing the words, peach blossom curse, Yun Ying's face turned pale, and her heart was in turmoil. But when she heard her master's later words, she became shy and lowered her head, lost in thought. Did master know what I feel for Xiao Qian? Master, I'm going now. Go ahead. Haisha City. It was July, the weather scorching hot. The streets were filled with cars, but there were not many people, just a few scattered passers-by. In the vast city, only under the bridge by the river did people stop, seeking the shade to cool off. Among the bustling crowd, occasionally, a loud voice cut through the air, a tone not quite fitting with the surroundings. Feng shui and divination, one reading to change your fate. Looking towards the voice, one could see a handsome young man in Daoist robes, casually sitting on a bench with his legs crossed, looking completely at ease. Next to him was a table with a sign reading Divine Calculator. This made Yan Qian stand out from the crowd, an odd figure in such a modern environment. Who would cosplay as a Daoist these days? And in this heat, isn't he that a bit too much? Look at his sleazy look, he has definitely no good. He calls himself a Divine Calculator. More like a charlatan. Hearing the gossip, Yang Qian couldn't help but sneer. His handsomeness was beyond the understanding of these ordinary folks. At that moment, a different voice came from ahead. Miss, there's a quack over there. Why don't you go have your fate read? All these scammers. I'm not falling for it. But, father insisted you marry. The two girls were speaking in low tones, but as a cultivator, Yang Qian's hearing was far beyond that of ordinary people, and every word reached his ears. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the voices. About 20 meters away, under a large tree, there was a sky-blue Lamborghini parked. Sitting inside were two stunningly beautiful girls. Especially the one in the driver's seat, with a perfect figure, an exquisite face, and skin so flawless that it looked like it could be broken with a touch. She looked almost like a fairy descended from the heavens. Even Yang Qian was momentarily stunned, nearly losing his cultivation focus. The girl in the driver's seat was Tang Weiwei, the eldest daughter of the Tang family in Haisha. The one sitting in the passenger seat was her close maid, Xiao Xiao. Recently, the head of the Tang family had forced Tang Weiwei to marry the lecherous Meng Guangren from the Meng family to curry favor with the Meng family. Displeased, Tang Weiwei ran away from the wedding with Xiao Xiao late at night. Upon seeing the two girls, Yang Qian's mind flashed with inspiration. He thought, this could be my first opportunity in the mortal world. Yang Qian, tired of the endless, monotonous cultivation on Longhu Mountain, had secretly slipped away. But upon entering the mortal world, he quickly realized that everything here required money, food, clothing, and shelter, things he had never had to worry about before. Often, he found himself hungry and starving. With no other choice, he decided to use divination to earn some money to sustain himself. Young ladies, would you like to have your fortune told? I can read your fate in matters of love, career, and more. If I'm wrong, there is no charge. How boring. Xiao Xiao, let us go. Don't pay attention to this quack. Tang Weiwei said, clearly displeased, about to drive off. But Yang Qian wasn't he about to miss this chance to make his first earnings. He sized up Tang Weiwei for a few seconds, then said slowly, Miss, I see that your forehead is dark. That's an omen of misfortune. You might be in for some trouble soon. Do you believe me? Tang Weiwei, already in a bad mood, exploded upon hearing this. You're the one with bad luck. Your whole family has bad luck. Xiao Xiao, in the passenger seat, gave Yang Qian a sympathetic look but didn't he speak. Yang Qian merely smiled slightly, covering up his awkwardness. You don't believe me? But I can guarantee, within 50 meters, you will encounter trouble. Har! You big idiot. Xiao Xiao, fasten your seatbelt. Let us go. Tang Weiwei started the Lamborghini and drove off quickly. Watching the car speed away, Yang Qian sighed and began to count down in a low voice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Before Yang Qian could finish his countdown, he heard a loud crack from around the corner, followed by a woman's sharp scream, "R. We've had an accident." Yang Qian immediately knew what had happened. He quickly stood up and rushed towards the accident scene. When he arrived, he saw that Tang Weiwei's Lamborghini had collided with a three-wheeled motorbike, pushing it into a small ditch by the side of the road. The motorbike was completely overturned, its body severely twisted and deformed. The Lamborghini had its front end smashed in, the hood caved in, and the glass shattered everywhere. Fortunately, there had been no one on the motorbike, and Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao were both fine, still sitting in the car in shock. Sure. Yang Qian let out a breath of relief. Due to the hot weather, there was only a cleaning lady nearby who had witnessed the accident. Without hesitation, Yang Qian took charge of the situation. He grabbed the tire of the Lamborghini, and with a little effort, pulled the car out of the ditch and back onto the road. This act stunned the cleaning lady. The Lamborghini must have weighed at least 2 or 3 tons, and yet this young man had pulled it up with just one hand. But for Yang Qian, this was nothing. Are you two ladies all right? Yang Qian asked softly. Xiao Xiao didn't respond, still in shock, but Tang Weiwei, her voice clearly full of anger, spoke up, It's all because of you, you quack. You cursed me into this accident. Oh, my leg. My leg hurts so much. Chapter 2, This feels so good. Due to the collision, the front of the car was almost completely destroyed, and the interior space was severely compressed. Tang Weiwei's legs were trapped, and she couldn't pull them out for the time being. Since the impact was near the main seat, Xiao Xiao, sitting next to her, was relatively safe. Seeing Tang Weiwei's situation, Xiao Xiao immediately began crying, Miss, are you all right? Tang Weiwei's voice was tinged with tears as she responded, I can't feel my legs anymore. What should we do? What should we do? Xiao Xiao, frantic like an ant on a hot pan, didn't know what to do. At this moment, Yang Qian suddenly spoke, Don't worry, ladies, I may have a solution. You have a way to save my lady. Xiao Xiao wiped away her tears after hearing Yang Qian's words. Oh, how could I have forgotten about him? Just now, he single-handedly pulled the car onto the road, something that no ordinary person could do. Master, if you can save my lady, our Tang family will reward you handsomely. Xiao Xiao said. This was exactly what Yang Qian had been waiting for. He was in desperate need of money. Yang Qian gestured for Xiao Xiao to move away, then entered the car. He pushed at the deformed area inside the car with one hand, and most of the damaged parts quickly returned to their original shape. Tang Weiwei's legs were freed. Mission accomplished. Yang Qian brushed off his hands, looking calm and composed. Although Tang Weiwei blamed Yang Qian for his cursed prediction, he had in fact extended his help twice. Overall, he had saved her life. Thank you so much, Master, she said, though her lips involuntarily twitched as she spoke. Yang Qian, noticing this detail, smiled and said, I'm not just good at fortune telling, I also have medical skills. It seems your legs are in quite a bad state. If you don't get treated soon, it might lead to worse consequences. This frightened Xiao Xiao, who immediately said, Miss, I think the master is a true expert. Please let him treat you. What if something worse happens? Although Tang Weiwei wanted to refuse, she couldn't withstand Xiao Xiao's persistent pleading. All right, then. Master, please help me. She said this while secretly thinking, if my legs aren't healed, I'll expose this so-called Taoist as a fraud. Yang Tian had Tang Weiwei lie down on the back seat, then took out a small golden box from his pocket. Since it was a long luxury car, there was ample space inside, and performing acupuncture would not be an issue. I'm going to start treatment now. If you feel uncomfortable at any time, let me know. Yang Tian kindly reminded. What should I do, master? Tang Weiwei asked, enduring the pain in her legs. You need to roll up your pants, Yang Tian said, but seeing Tang Weiwei's angry glare, he quickly corrected himself, oh, no. I mean, roll them up. I'm going to do acupuncture on you. Miss, you can't move. Let me help you, Xiao Xiao said, and began assisting Tang Weiwei. Once everything was set, Xiao Xiao moved aside to give Yang Tian space for treatment. It all happened very quickly. Yang Tian opened the box, revealing 13 acupuncture needles lined up inside. He swiftly inserted all of them into the key acupuncture points on Tang Weiwei's legs. The acupuncture is done. Very good. Yang Tian seemed quite satisfied with his work, even blowing on his fingers as if they were slightly warm. However, Xiao Xiao, who was watching through the car window, had no idea what had just happened. Oh my god! In the blink of an eye, all the needles have been inserted into her leg's acupuncture points. Doesn't he seem like someone who randomly stick needles in, does he? Meanwhile, Tang Weiwei felt something different. Before the acupuncture, her legs were in excruciating pain, but as soon as all the needles were in, she began to feel a warmth and swelling in the injured areas. A little while later, the pain in her legs greatly reduced, and the swelling started to go down. Miss, how do you feel now? Xiao Xiao asked with concern. Before Tang Weiwei could answer, Yang Tian cut in, don't worry. The master still has more tricks up his sleeve. You'll be jumping around in no time. With that, Yang Tian crouched down and pulled the needles out. Then, he placed both hands on the injured parts of Tang Weiwei's legs. However, as soon as his hands touched her skin, Yang Tian couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. Wow, her skin feels incredible, like smooth satin. It's so soft and flawless, almost like milk. Just like senior sister S. Yang Tian thought with a mischievous smile. Yang Tian and Yun Ying had grown up together on the mountain, childhood friends who practiced both Taoism and medicine. Naturally, there had been moments of physical contact between them. What are you doing? Are you a pervert? Tang Weiwei, feeling Yang Tian's touch, became upset and shouted. Yang Tian immediately snapped back to focus, don't move. I'm going to circulate some energy to heal your leg. He then placed his hands lightly on the swollen areas and injured spots, releasing streams of spiritual energy that slowly seeped into her legs. At first, Tang Weiwei was going to argue, but suddenly she felt a wave of soothing energy flowing through her legs. It was like warm currents traveling through her muscles, blood vessels, and nerves. She even felt as if the energy was repairing her damaged cells. It felt so good that Tang Weiwei let out a soft, almost inaudible hum. After several waves of energy, Yang Tian noticed that Tang Weiwei's leg injuries were healing visibly. The most astonishing part was that there were no scars left on her legs, nothing showed she had been injured. All done. You can stand up now. Yang Tian said. Just like that. Tang Weiwei was in disbelief as she regained her senses. She had almost felt like she was floating in relaxation. Yang Tian smiled faintly, why don't you try standing up and see for yourself? Tang Weiwei stood up slowly, feeling reluctant to leave the comfortable sensation she had just experienced. The moment she stood, she noticed that there was no more pain in her legs, and they had regained their shiny, smooth appearance. My god, I'm really fine now. This is unbelievable, she exclaimed. Her leg injury had healed so quickly, it was like something out of a fairy tale. Excited, she jumped out of the car and spun around a few times with Xiao Xiao. This is amazing. Miss, you're really fine now. Yang Tian watched their excitement and couldn't resist adding, now, do you believe in my abilities? Although Tang Weiwei was usually a little arrogant, she was very polite this time, thank you so much, master. Yang Tian raised an eyebrow and asked, you don't think I'm a fraud anymore? Chapter 3, Old Master, I can save him. Tang Weiwei was somewhat embarrassed. Master, you really are amusing. I never expected you to be so skilled in medicine, your abilities exceed all my expectations. And what about my reward? Master, don't worry, the Tang family will definitely reward you generously. If you don't trust me, come with me to the Tang family. I'll write you a check then. When he heard the mention of a check, Yang Qian immediately brightened up. Then what are we waiting for? Let us go. In the few days that Yang Qian had been down the mountain, he had realized the truth of the saying, a penny can kill a big stomach. He understood that earning money was the way to go. Master, please wait a moment, I'll call the driver and have him bring the car to pick me up. After witnessing Yang Qian's real abilities, Tang Weiwei's tone became much more respectful, no longer carrying the arrogance she had earlier. But just as she dialed the number, she heard a panicked voice on the other end. Miss, it's bad. The head of the family has fainted, and the doctor says. Tang Weiwei's face immediately turned as pale as paper. What? How could this happen? Hurry and drive here to pick me up, something has happened on my side. After giving the address, she hung up the phone. Something has happened at home. Yang Qian, with his sharp senses, had already overheard the phone call. Yes. My grandfather has fainted. Tang Weiwei bit her lip, her face filled with worry. Don't worry, I'm here. Yang Qian said reassuringly. Looking at the stranger before her, Tang Weiwei couldn't believe it, but at that moment, she felt an inexplicable sense of trust and security in him. Yes, with him around, her grandfather's condition should be treatable. Soon, the Tang family's driver arrived. Yang Qian followed Tang Weiwei to the Tang family's mansion. Having lived a life away from the world, Yang Qian was amazed by the Tang family's mansion. The grand architecture, the luxurious decorations, it was truly magnificent. Master, stop looking around, just follow us. Xiao Xiao reminded him. As soon as they entered, they were greeted by Tang Weiwei's third uncle, Tang Lan. Third uncle. Third master. Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao greeted in unison. Tang Lan nodded but then fixed his gaze on Yang Qian. Weiwei, who is this master? Seeing the urgency of the situation, Tang Weiwei, anxious about her grandfather, quickly explained, this master is a friend of mine, and he is very skilled in medicine. I brought him here to treat grandfather. Ridiculous. Your grandfather is in critical condition, and you're bringing some wandering quack to treat him. You know how many famous doctors the Tang family has called, and none could help. Do you think a random Taoist can do anything? Ridiculous. Tang Lan's face showed clear displeasure. Someone, throw him out. As soon as he spoke, a few servants surrounded them. Yang Qian remained unfazed, his eyes, however, stayed on Tang Weiwei, waiting to see how she would handle the situation. Third uncle, I'm not making a fuss. This master is indeed unparalleled in his medical skills. I believe he can cure grandfather's illness. Please let us through. Tang Weiwei was starting to get anxious. She couldn't understand why her usually gentle and refined third uncle was being so stubborn and forceful today. It's easy for you to say. If something goes wrong, who will take responsibility? Tang Lan pressed on. I'll take responsibility. Yang Qian stepped forward, speaking with firm confidence. If I can't cure Tang Lao Yi, I will exchange my life for his. Tang Lan didn't believe this young man could have any miraculous medical skills, but he figured, let him try. If anything goes wrong, it will make for an interesting show. All right, you may go in. I want to join you. My brother is inside. I'll stay out here. Xiao Xiao, you stay here. I'll go with the master. Yang Qian followed Tang Weiwei into the old master's living room. Watching their backs, a strange glint flickered in Tang Lan's eyes. Tang Weiwei opened the door, and inside, there were only three people: her father, Tang Jing, the elderly Chinese medicine practitioner, Old Wei, and her grandfather, who was barely breathing. Old Wei was diagnosing the old master using traditional Chinese medicine, performing the for diagnostic methods inspection, listening, inquiry, and palpation, but his expression was very serious. Tang Weiwei's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to rush over to her beloved grandfather, but she didn't. Instead, she just stood by quietly, watching the scene unfold. Yang Qian stood behind Tang Weiwei, his gaze entirely fixed on the old master. After a brief moment, Old Wei stopped his movements. Old Wei, how is my father? Tang Jing asked in a low voice. Old Wei sighed deeply. Your father's vital functions have essentially ceased. You should start preparing for the inevitable. As he spoke, he began to pack up his medical tools, preparing to leave. Tang Jing was filled with despair. Old Wei was the foremost authority in traditional Chinese medicine in the city, and his words carried weight. It seemed the end was near. Just as they were about to give up, an untimely voice rang out from behind. The old master can still be saved. It was Yang Qian's voice. Startled by this deep voice, Tang Jing quickly turned around, trembling as he looked at the young man. Then, he turned to Tang Weiwei. Weiwei, is this your friend? Dad, this is the master I invited to treat grandfather. Tang Weiwei wiped away her tears and explained to her father. This master is truly capable, please let him take a look at grandfather. Tang Jing saw the determination in his daughter's eyes and understood. He looked again at Yang Qian. You say the old master can still be saved? Yes, he can still be saved. Yang Qian spoke with firm confidence. However, these words caused old Wei to immediately tense up. He stopped his movements and questioned, Young man, it's fine to talk big, but you can't say nonsense. Tang Laoyi is beyond saving. How can he still be saved? Yang Qian retorted, Old Wei, though you are a respected figure in local medicine, let me remind you of one thing, there is always someone better, and there is always a higher heaven. Please step aside, I will treat him. Yang Qian spoke without arrogance, which made Old Wei somewhat surprised and impressed, raising his opinion of him. Dad, Old Wei, let the master have a chance. After all, grandfather is in this state. Maybe he can work some miracle. Tang Weiwei pleaded. Tang Jing thought for a moment and nodded. All right, we'll give him a chance. But if he really cures my father, any reward he asks for will be given. Old Wei stepped aside, curious to see if this 20-year-old young man truly had some extraordinary medical skills. Yang Qian sat down, carefully checking the old master's pulse and mouth. From his observations earlier, he had already noticed something odd. Now, through direct examination, he was nearly certain this was a terminal illness. It was poisoning. Chapter 4 How can we measure a master with money? Master, can this disease be cured? Tang Weiwei noticed the change in Yang Qian's expression and looked nervous, fearing that Yang Qian would deny it. At this moment, she could only place her hopes on Yang Qian. Okay. Yang Qian nodded. This sentence was like a reassurance, which made Tang Weiwei feel inexplicably relieved, and her body no longer trembled with fear. Tang Jing and others nearby felt inexplicably relieved after Yang Qian's affirmative answer. Even if there is only a glimmer of hope, they will fight for it. Only Elder Wei had some doubts, but everyone else fell silent. Seeing this, Yang Qian took out the silver needle he had used on Tang Weiwei before. The poison that old man Tang was infected with was actually not difficult to cure, but the toxin had completely eroded his meridians, and some parts of them were blocked. The old man was already weak, so it was natural that he would not live long. Yang Qian was lucky to meet him. After all, toxins needed to be purified with spiritual energy. But the fact that Mr. Tang was poisoned is rather odd. It's none of my business. Yang Qian decided to just save people first. After all, less trouble is worse than more. Thinking of this, Yang Qian's eyes flickered, and he mobilized the energy in his dantian and began to pierce the blocked areas of the old man's meridians. 13 silver needles are used, each one is steady and hits the key points. At this moment, the only thing left in Yang Qian's eyes was the direction of the poison. As long as he solved them one by one, he could cure the master's condition. When Old Wei next to him saw Yang Qian's domineering approach, he was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. In his half-life experience, Yang Qian's stabbing was just random and unreasonable. You absolutely can't do that to the Yunmen acupoint. Old Wei was shocked and went over to stop Yang Qian from continuing. If this isn't a matter of life and death, what is? However, Yang Qian did not give him any chance to come over. The silver needle fell much faster than Old Wei could say this sentence. His technique is extremely skillful. As the needle dropped, Mr. Tang on the bed reacted immediately and began to tremble all over. Wow! After spitting out a mouthful of purple-black blood, Old Master Tang slowly opened his eyes. However, before the people around him could react, Yang Qian continued to prick several acupuncture points one by one before stopping. At the same time, Mr. Tang also spat out several mouthfuls of poisonous blood. Looking at the people in the room, I dare not breathe. Okay. Yang Qian took back the silver needle and purified the toxin on it with spiritual energy. Tang Weiwei was the first to recover. She covered her chest and gasped for breath, tears rolling down her cheeks, no longer able to be held back. Grandfather! Dad! Tang Jing also hurried forward to check the situation. Old Master Tang was still in a trance, his eyes slowly focused, and when he saw Tang Weiwei and Tang Jing in front of him, he said weakly, Weiwei Xiaotang. The two of them finally put their minds at ease, both of them in tears. Woke up. Mr. Tang really woke up. They really met a master today. The look they gave Yang Qian was already full of respect. Old Wei, whose hands were still frozen in mid-air, was also surprised to see Mr. Tang waking up. Who is this Yang Qian in front of me? It was obvious that old Master Tang was on the verge of life and death, but Yang Qian actually brought him back to life with just a silver needle. This is horrifying. Old Wei's eyes narrowed and it took him a long time to utter a word. I was too reckless just now. Master, you are a great doctor. Please don't take it to heart. Old Wei said respectfully. Although the person in front of me is young, he has great medical skills. Tang Jing also stood up at this time, waved his hand, turned around and looked at Yang Qian, wanting to kneel down. However, Yang Qian was quick and blocked Tang Jing's next move. Saving people is saving people, but Yang Qian cannot bear this kind of etiquette. Thank you, Master, for saving my life. Tang Jing said with tears streaming down his face. Saving the dying and healing the wounded is a medical ethics. There is no need to do this. Yang Qian said. This is what he heard the old man talk about every day in the mountains. Tang Weiwei next to her also stood up quickly. Master, you helped me heal my legs on the roadside, and saved my grandfather's life here. These are my gifts of thanks to you. As Tang Weiwei spoke, she began to order her servants to issue an invoice. In just a minute, an invoice worth 30 million was placed in Yang Qian's hands. 30 million. When Yang Qian saw the invoice, his eyes lit up. Where had he seen such a large amount of money in the mountains? It seems that food, clothing, shelter and transportation are enough for him to live happily for a while. Seeing that Yang Qian didn't say anything, Tang Weiwei thought that Yang Qian had other ideas, so she spoke immediately. Master? Is there anything else you want? Just ask. No. Yang Qian denied it outright. 30 million is definitely enough. It's fate that I met Mr. Tang today. Weiwei, how can you offend the master like this? Tang Jing walked out and said. What I mean is, how can a master-level being like Yang Qian in front of us be measured by money? Tang Weiwei also realized something and her face immediately blushed. Yes. Yang Qian has such great abilities, why would he worry about not making money? Why would he be interested in her mere 30 million? This was quite presumptuous of her. Tang Weiwei didn't know what to say for a moment. Yang Qian naturally didn't know what Tang Weiwei was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely say that money was not an offense to him. At this moment, Mr. Tang on the bed began to cough violently. After struggling for a while, he slowly sat up. It seemed that the toxins in his body were cleared and he recovered a lot immediately. Thank you, Master, said Mr. Tang. You're not that serious. You're still weak and need more care. I've completely cured you and you'll be very strong after your recovery. Yang Qian said with a smile. Also, don't call me Master. My name is Yang Qian. Just call me Xiao Yang. Yang Qian didn't care about the name at all. It was much better to call him Xiao Yang than Master. You saved my life. I don't know how to thank you. I should repay you for saving my life. From now on, Yang Xiao is a member of our Tang family. Old Master Tang smiled weakly and covered his mouth with his hands when he wanted to cough. And this covering of the mouth also made Yang Qian feel the antique body on Mr. Tang's wrist. Yang Qiansai doesn't care whether it's the Tang family or not. The main thing is that this body actually exudes spiritual energy. And judging from the richness of the spiritual energy, it is definitely a treasure. Yang Qian's eyes narrowed. If he had this jade bracelet, his cultivation might be able to reach a higher level. Looking at Mr. Tang, Yang Qian said, Where did you get this antique from? This is the body fruit that has been passed down from generation to generation. Mr. Tang said, looking up at Yang Qian, then looking at the body in his hand with a face full of emotion, and then said, Master, are you very interested in it? Chapter 5 This is not an illness, it is a sign of poisoning. The lines are clear, the crystals are round and mellow, it's a good string of string. Yang Qian praised. Of course I'm interested. Yang Qian's eyes lit up. This string of things was full of spiritual energy. If he could get it, it would definitely help him improve his cultivation significantly. When Mr. Tang heard Yang Qian's high evaluation, he also smiled and said, "This is a treasure passed down by the Tang family. A master has previously identified it as having mysterious uses, and it can be used for self-defense," but old Master Tang stopped talking halfway, and then a hint of pain flashed across his eyes. After all, this thing is a treasure passed down from generation to generation in the Tang family, and he still feels a little sad to give it away. But his life was also saved by Yang Qian. After figuring this out, Mr. Tang took off the body bracelet without hesitation and handed it to Yang Qian. Yang Qian saved his life, why should he still feel sad at this time? If you are interested, Xiao Yang, I'll give it to you. Old Master Tang handed it to Yang Qian with both hands. Tang Weiwei and Tang Jing, who were standing beside them, also showed a slight change in expression when they saw this. Tang Weiwei stuck out her tongue and muttered carefully, "I've been asking Grandpa for it for a long time but still haven't gotten it." Realizing that her voice was a little loud, she immediately covered her mouth and stopped talking. Yang Qian naturally didn't say much. He had long noticed Mr. Tang's reluctance, so he didn't say much and simply accepted it. "Thank you, Mr. Tang," Yang Qian said. The first reason for accepting it was that it would help improve his cultivation. The second reason is that since this is a treasure handed down from the Tang family, Yang Qian would not accept it for nothing. Putting the body into his pocket, Yang Qian took out a piece of paper from the side and wrote on it the medicines that the old man would need for subsequent recuperation. These are the medicines that Mr. Tang needs for his subsequent care. You can go to the pharmacy and get them. With these medicines, Mr. Tang's body will recover and resist many diseases. Yang Qian said, handing the paper to Mr. Tang and admonishing him. "You have a cold in your left leg. You can recover by taking these medicines." When Mr. Tang heard what Yang Qian said, he was immediately delighted. He knew that Yang Qian accepted his things to help him regulate his body, and he admired Yang Qian even more in his heart. Mr. Tang did not dare to neglect it and said quickly, "Thank you, Xiao Yang. Master Yang is so amazing. Everyone knows that Grandpa's left leg has always been not working well." Tang Weiwei's face was full of admiration, and her liking for Yang Qian increased a lot. "Then are you going to call me a charlatan?" Yang Qian retorted. No. You are master, how could you be a charlatan?" Tang Weiwei's pretty face turned slightly red as she thought of her rude behavior just now. Although she thought so in her heart, she felt that this man was too vindictive. With Tang Weiwei around, the atmosphere among the group suddenly became much more lively. "Then I'll go first," Yang Qian said. "I help people treat their illnesses and collect money from them. Now there is nothing for me to do if I continue staying here." He, Yang Qian, still wants to use the money to live a carefree life. "Wait," old Master Tang said hurriedly when he saw Yang Qian was about to leave. "Huh." Yang Qian stopped and looked at Mr. Tang in confusion. Mr. Tang coughed twice before saying, "I wonder if Xiao Yang can tell me what disease I have." Yang Qian fell silent after hearing what Master Tang said. He shouldn't have been involved in family affairs. As a doctor, he had the power to refuse Mr. Tang's questions. But considering that Mr. Tang gave him this bracelet, it's okay to say it. If he doesn't tell others, Mr. Tang will definitely fall into the trap again in the future. When several people saw Yang Qian was silent, they all swallowed their saliva. Could it be that he really had some unspeakable serious illness? After a while, Yang Qian glanced at the servants in the room, then raised his head and said with a smile as if jokingly, "Oh, my memory is not good. I just couldn't remember what the word was for a moment. Hissing is a rare disease. It's not good for others to hear it. After all." Yang Qian's eyes moved around Master Tang twice. Tang Weiwei saw the changes in Yang Qian and immediately became anxious. What kind of illness could my grandfather have that he couldn't tell about? Tang Weiwei didn't understand, but Mr. Tang had been in the martial arts world for so many years, so how could he not understand what this meant? He immediately told his servants, "You guys go out first." Several servants thought it was some kind of illness that was difficult to describe and they needed to avoid suspicion, so they had to close the door and leave. At this time, only the 3 members of the Tang family were left in the room. Looking at the tightly closed door, Yang Qian began to speak. "This disease is not a disease. Don't be too surprised by what I am going to say next. The reason why Yang Qian did this without saying it directly was because he was in the mindset of helping others to the end. He didn't want Mr. Tang to encounter another accident because of his words. Mr. Tang and others nodded, indicating that they were mentally prepared. Yang Qian didn't hesitate. He looked up and said, "This is not a disease, it's a poison, a chronic poison. Someone poisoned Mr. Tang." Yang Qian's words made the three people present silent. Poison? It turned out that Mr. Tang was poisoned this time when he fell ill. How is that possible? Tang Jing's face was solemn and his brows were furrowed. Tang Weiwei's face was also full of disbelief. But Yang Qian stopped there and didn't say any more. The rest of the internal affairs had nothing to do with him. "I'll leave first, I still have things to deal with." Yang Qian made up an excuse and opened the door and walked out, leaving only the three people from the Tang family. Nothing can stop him from spending. After exchanging a glance with Tang Lan, who was guarding the door, Yang Qian didn't take it too seriously and walked out of the corridor. The three members of the Tang family in the room fell silent. "Grandpa, Dad, I'll go ask Master Yang what's going on," Tang Weiwei said hurriedly, feeling anxious. How could Yang Qian just say a few words and leave? But just as she was about to go out, Tang Jing stopped her. "Weiwei, calm down and don't be so anxious," Tang Jing said. Mr. Tang next to him said the same thing. "Okay, Weiwei, it's enough that Xiao Yang can tell us this." Speaking of Yang Qian, he is also a great benefactor of the Tang family. If someone wanted to harm him, Yang Qian would be taking part of the risk by speaking out. "Weiwei, where did you meet Xiao Yang?" asked Mr. Tang. Tang Weiwei didn't understand why Mr. Tang asked this, but she still told the truth. "I met him on the roadside. He told me that I would have a bloody disaster. Then I was in a car accident and couldn't stand up. He cured me. Later I told him I could name any price, and he..." Elder Tang nodded and continued, "Then go follow Yang Qian now and help him if he needs any help. Judging from his outfit, he should have just arrived here." Tang Weiwei nodded to show her understanding. Thinking of this, she opened the door and walked out. "Xiao Jing, go and spread the good news that I'm recovered, and let the people waiting outside in." "Yes. This Yang Qian is truly a noble of the Tang family," Old Master Tang said with emotion. Chapter 6 Undercurrent. After Yang Qian came out of Tang's house and got the money, he went straight to the noodle shop. "Boss, 2 big bowls of pork intestine noodles. And a small plate of braised beef in soy sauce," Yang Qian said loudly. This is the first time that Yang Qian eats so capriciously. "Don't ask. The answer is that I had no money to go down the mountain. I was so poor that when I got hungry on the way, I could only eat some insects, grass, and fruit trees to fill my stomach. How could I resist encountering such a delicious delicacy?" The boss's pork intestines noodles and braised beef were soon served, and Yang Qian picked up the chopsticks and started eating. After one bite, he felt that this was the most delicious food in the world. "It smells so good." Yang Qian's tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. Where in the mountains had he ever eaten such delicious food? Following my senior sister and master, I usually eat very little meat. When he ate this delicacy at this moment, he only felt the fragrance overflowing between his lips and teeth, and his taste buds were jumping. Thinking of his master and senior sister, Yang Qian ate noodles at a much slower pace. "I don't know if my master will be anxious if I go down the mountain rashly, and my gentle sister will be angry. Forget it, since we have already run down the mountain, let's practice peacefully. It would be bad if we get caught going up. I'll bring my senior sister and master to eat there when we have a chance." Thinking of this, Yang Qian said, "Boss, another bowl." "Okay, no problem. You're quite a big eater, young man." The boss was a little surprised. The people around were all shocked when they saw the way Yang Qian ate. Is this noodle really that delicious? He ate 4 large bowls of noodles and 2 plates of braised beef, and only then did his belly become full. Just as he was about to pay the bill, Tang Weiwei happened to see Yang Qian outside. When she saw Yang Qian in the noodle shop, her face was suddenly filled with joy. She went around for several rounds before she finally found Yang Qian. However, it was only a few minutes before Yang Qian ran to the noodle shop. He walked too fast. "Master Yang." Tang Weiwei walked into the noodle shop and called Yang Qian by his full name. "R." Yang Qian was a little surprised and looked back at her. "Why are you here?" My grandfather said you just arrived here, so he asked me to come and help you. Tang Weiwei panted, hunched over and covered her waist with one hand. It can be seen that a lot of effort was put into finding Yang Qian. But it's quite a skill for Tang Weiwei to be able to find such a far place. After hearing that it was arranged by Mr. Tang, Yang Qian had nothing to say. Master Yang, what are you going to do now? Tang Weiwei asked, her eyes shifting to the table where Yang Qian had just eaten. When she saw the 4 large bowls of noodles and 2 plates of soy sauce meat, her expression became a little weird. Did you eat this yourself? Tang Weiwei said. Hearing this, Yang Qian still scratched his head in embarrassment. I ate it. I've never eaten such delicious food when I was in the mountains before, and I ate too much without realizing it. Yang Qian said, as if he was lost in memories. But then he quickly changed the subject. I'm going to replace my equipment now. Wearing the clothes he wore in the mountains, he looked too plain in this big city. When you go down the mountain, you still have to conform to contemporary aesthetics. Tang Weiwei naturally knew that Yang Qian didn't want to say more, so she didn't ask any more questions. However, when I thought about the fact that Yang Qian used to live in the mountains, I instantly understood why I always felt that Yang Qian was dressed strangely when I saw him. Although she was curious, Tang Weiwei also knew when to ask and when not to. If you want to go shopping, I'm very familiar with this place. I'll take you there. Tang Weiwei took the initiative to say. Yang Qian did not refuse this, as he really needed someone to lead the way at this moment. Night. With Tang Weiwei leading the way and helping him, he quickly bought everything he needed. In the evening, Tang Weiwei took Yang Qian to see the house again. They didn't stop until all the procedures were completed. In fact, Yang Qian had never thought about staying here. He longs for the world. It was just that the Tang family gave him the house to live in, so he had nothing to say and he could stay here for a few more days. Just relax while traveling. That's it, Master Yang, Tang Weiwei said, it's getting late, I'll go back first. This is my cell phone number. Tang Weiwei told Yang Qian her cell phone number and told him to save it. Faced with such an enthusiastic Tang Weiwei, Yang Qian had no choice but to open his newly bought mobile phone and save the message. Then I'll leave first. After doing all this, Tang Weiwei opened the door with satisfaction and prepared to leave. However, Yang Qian noticed something outside the window and asked, why don't you stay for dinner? No. Tang Weiwei was a little flattered, but she quickly refused, Grandpa's health is not very good yet. I plan to go back and see him. Okay. Yang Qian nodded. Seeing this, Tang Weiwei quickly walked out of the door, got into her car, and drove forward. Yang Qian sent Tang Weiwei away, took a deep breath, looked out the window and said, you guys acted quickly. You sent someone to look for me so quickly. His words were filled with spiritual energy, pushing the sound far away. Several ferocious-looking men gradually walked out of the flower bed near the window. Since you have discovered us, we can't wait any longer. I'll give you a chance now. If you jump out yourself, I will let you die quickly, said the leading big man in a cold voice. Yang Qian glanced at the person in front of him calmly and shook his head. An ordinary person, without any cultivation at all. From the moment he moved into the room, he noticed someone was following him. This was also something he had expected. After all, it was he who saved Mr. Tang. This situation involves the interests of the Tang family. You are no match for me, let's go. Yang Qian said indifferently. Yang Qian's principle of conduct is not to bully ordinary people who have no cultivation. This is also the teaching of his master. Har, what did you say? You? Are you dreaming? Tiger Shark is no joke. He has been doing this kind of work for years, so naturally he is not slow. This weakling really doesn't know how to live or die. This is so funny. Let's deal with it quickly. After we finish this job, we will go for the big one. Several younger brothers also said sarcastically. The Tiger Shark didn't hesitate and shouted, brothers, fight. Yang Qian sighed helplessly and jumped out of the window. He jumped out of the window on the 4th floor and landed steadily. Tiger Shark and the others were a little dazed, but they continued to swing their weapons at Yang Qian. At this time, it would be impolite for Yang Qian not to fight. After taking down a big man holding a mace head-on, Yang Qian leaned sideways and punched the Tiger Shark in the face. The sound of the bone breaking from this punch was so obvious that it made people shudder. This guy. He's a martial artist. Let me do it. Tiger Shark shouted with frowned eyebrows. Chapter 7 Dad, we were wrong. The tiger shark rushed towards Yang Tian in 2 or 3 steps, and wanted to swing a knife at Yang Tian's chest. Yang Tian was quick-eyed and quick-handed. He knocked the knife out of Tiger Shark's hand with one hand and punched him in the chest. This punch contained less than 10% of spiritual energy. The tiger shark's body bent, and was flung out by the punch and hit the poplar tree behind it, which was then broken by inertia. This scene of such powerful impact made the younger brothers who were about to attack Yang Tian stop in their tracks, with faces full of shock. Is this the power that humans have? The younger brother said with trembling lips. Looking at Tiger Shark again, he was completely limp on the ground. After a simple fight, it was obvious that Yang Tian won. Glancing at the tiger shark calmly, Yang Tian's attack had broken 6 of his ribs, which was enough time for him to recuperate for a while. He glanced at the rest of his brothers and said nothing. This kind of pressure is enough to make the legs and feet of those younger brothers tremble. The younger brothers only felt an invisible force of oppression enveloping their whole bodies, and their souls seemed to be trembling. Master, you see, we have offended you. You are a magnanimous person. Yes, Master, it's our fault. We shouldn't have provoked you. Several younger brothers spoke hurriedly, their voices and lips trembling under Yang Tian's indifferent gaze. Plop. With a few sounds, several younger brothers knelt down one after another. I'm sorry, Dad. It's our fault, please let us go. Several people started to cry. Seeing this, Yang Tian also withdrew his oppressive force, and with a whoosh sound, he turned around and jumped up from the 4th floor window from which he had just jumped down. Seeing this, the younger brothers dared to raise their heads. Did you see it just now? It seems he jumped onto the 4th floor window. One of the younger brothers' eyes narrowed. We are not blind, said another one next to him, and silently pressed down the head of the younger brother who had spoken earlier. Then what about our mission and this time's bounty? Still talking about the bounty? Let's first see if the boss is still alive, and then go ask for compensation from the Tang family who hired us. After discussing with the younger brothers, they could only carefully carry the unconscious tiger shark and leave the scene. And Yang Tian upstairs had heard all the information. As a warrior, being able to hear everything around you is a basic skill, not to mention that his cultivation is at the level of heavenly mirror image. The levels of cultivation are chi intake, foundation building, earth mirror image, sky mirror image, formation mirror image and emperor mirror image. Nowadays, the spiritual energy in the city is thin, and it is not easy to practice. Yang Tian's cultivation level is already enough to crush most warriors. At the same time, his cultivation had been stuck at the heavenly mirror stage for more than half a year. It was as if he had reached the peak and needed an opportunity to break through. This time when he went down the mountain, Yang Tian also wanted to find this opportunity. He no longer paid any attention to Tiger Shark and the others who were walking away below. Yang Tian took out the string of body fruits with clear patterns and injected spiritual energy into them. The body fruit also felt the resonance and began to emit a buzzing sound, with blue light flashing. The surface of the body fruit gradually became smooth, revealing the blue stone inside. Yang Tian looked at the fruit excitedly, his eyes flashing. This is 1,000-year-old spirit stone. It is indeed a good stuff. With a sigh, Yang Tian hurriedly closed his eyes and began to absorb it. The surrounding spiritual energy also swayed with his breath. At the same time, he also completely entered the state of cultivation. Not far downstairs, Tang Weiwei drove back here, with a dazed look on her face. The reason she drove back was because there were some things in the car that Yang Tian forgot to take from shopping in the afternoon, and she just came back to deliver them. The reason for her trance was that she had just seen the entire fight between Yang Tian and the tiger shark. Master Yang is so handsome. Tang Weiwei swallowed her saliva, recalling the scene of Yang Tian fighting just now. How can that be called a fight? That's enough time to make a movie. Thinking of the scene where Yang Tian jumped onto the 4th floor window just now, she felt it was even more magical and unbelievable. But the thing was really happening right before her eyes, so Tang Weiwei had to suppress her curiosity. No, I have to tell Grandpa Master Yang what happened tonight. After thinking for a moment, Tang Weiwei decided not to send the gifts for the time being. After all, Yang Tian had just arrived in High City alone, and tonight's fight might have something to do with his Tang family. After thinking about it carefully, Tang Weiwei finally understood this point, put the gift box back into her car, got in the car and hurried back to the Tang family. C City, Hang Seng Group. You said that Yang Qian killed all the tiger sharks. The middle-aged man in black frowned slightly. This person is Tang family's third uncle, Tang Lan. Yes, not only did he kill all the tiger sharks, he also broke 6 of tiger shark's ribs. He will most likely be bedridden for the rest of his life, and if he can't be cured, he will be paralyzed, said another ferocious-looking man next to him. He is one of the leaders of the half force in High City, and is considered a big shot in High City. Tang Lan frowned slightly when he heard this. The fact that Yang Qian was able to defeat the tiger shark was beyond his expectation. Is Yang Qianjin really that awesome? This time he sent Tiger Shark with the intention of warning Yang Qian not to meddle in other people's business, but now he has been outmaneuvered. This Yang Qian is quite interesting. Give Tiger Shark basic medical expenses and let him recover from his injuries. Tang Lan said with narrowed eyes. I must explain to my brothers. I heard from Tiger Shark's fellow brothers that Yang Qian could easily jump onto the 4th floor window and knock Tiger Shark down with one punch. Haisha said. I underestimated my enemy. I thought he was just a weak doctor, but I didn't expect he was actually a martial artist. Tang Lan put out his cigarette and fell into deep thought after hearing this message. He jumped up to the 4th floor easily and paralyzed the tiger shark with one punch. If he wasn't a martial artist, then what else could he be? Then what should we do next? Do we continue to assassinate Yang Qian? Haisha asked. This time Tang Lan shook her head. Since the first attempt was unsuccessful, there is no point in doing it a second time. After all, he went there with the intention of giving a warning. If Yang Qian was a smart man, he would understand what was going on. Just keep a close eye on Yang Qian at all times. If he doesn't interfere in the Tang family's affairs, let him do what he wants. Tang Lan said. Haisha also agreed with this opinion. Mr. Tang is so lucky to be alive this time. Haisha frowned. I thought I could let you take over the position of the head of the Tang family smoothly this time. That old guy is lucky, otherwise he would have died long ago. Tang Lan snorted coldly. Since we saved him this time, how are we going to succeed next time? Should we continue to poison him? Haisha fell into deep thought. The Tang family is wealthy and powerful, and the resources and power behind it are extremely abundant. This piece of cake is something everyone dreams of having a piece of. Tang Lan did this, and Haisha also wanted to take advantage of it. We can't poison him anymore. The old man should be alert now. We should try another method. Tang Lan said after thinking for a moment. Is there any other way? Haisha's face wrinkled. How can there be no solution? There are many ways to kill someone. Tang Lan's eyes flashed with cruelty, and he said nothing more. The room fell into silence. Chapter 8 Tang Family Plan. Tang Family. Tang Weiwei rushed back and told Grandpa Tang and Tang Jing everything that had just happened to Yang Qian. After hearing this, both of them had their own thoughts. Especially Mr. Tang's expression was extremely ugly. This news was enough to tell them that the other side had taken action, and it was directed at Yang Qian. Then Xiao Yang is not injured, right? Said Mr. Tang. No. Tang Weiwei shook her head. Master Yang is very skilled in martial arts. He knocked the people on the other side unconscious with just one punch. Thinking of the scene of Yang Qian fighting just now, Tang Weiwei was still a little excited. After hearing this reply, Mr. Tang nodded. After all, Yang Qian is a great benefactor of the Tang family. Now that he has cured him, he is still involved in family disputes. He feels guilty about this. This time Yang Qian escaped the disaster thanks to his superb martial arts skills, but what about next time? The information brought by Tang Weiwei has proved that the other side has begun to act. While worrying about Yang Qian, he also started to worry about the trivial matters of the Tang family. With his brows furrowed, Mr. Tang fell into silence. Tang Jing next to him kept frowning, and after a long time he slapped the table. What the hell is going on? Tang Jing was angry. If these bastards want to rob or fight, just come over and do it. What's the big deal about hurting Dad? Even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. Dad, don't get excited. Tang Weiwei stepped forward and supported Tang Jing and said hurriedly. At this juncture, there was internal strife in the family. Mr. Tang was in poor health, and things were piling up. Even Tang Jing would feel upset. If someone poisoned me, it must be the brothers in my family. Master Yarn said that someone poisoned us. Could it be my second uncle? After all, he and Grandpa. Tang Weiwei stopped talking in a low voice. My second uncle was kicked out of the house by Mr. Tang when he was young. He always hated Mr. Tang and later did business in High City. After Tang Weiwei said this, the atmosphere became cold again. Mr. Tang has 3 sons. The eldest is Tang Jing, the second is Tang Yun, and the third is Tang Lan. It's impossible for Tang Jing in front of him. Tang Lan is usually gentle and treats old man Tang very well, so it's even more impossible. Naturally, everyone suspected the second uncle. Just before the accident, the second uncle asked the Tang family for some money, but the Tang family did not help. What happened next was that something happened to the old man. It doesn't matter who it is. Old Master Tang interrupted everyone's thoughts. Even if he found out who was behind this, Mr. Tang, who is too old to do anything now. The most important thing now is defense. Weiwei, what you said today about Xiao Yang's exaggerated moves when fighting with the opponent is true, right? Old Master Tang asked again. Tang Weiwei nodded immediately. How could this be fake? It's real, Grandpa. I thought it was a movie. He jumped directly onto the 4th floor window. It was like he was doing an acrobatic trick. Tang Weiwei said immediately, then realized her own gaffe and stuck out her tongue embarrassedly. Hearing this, Mr. Tang also nodded. Then go meet Xiao Yang again tomorrow and find a way to get him to meet me again. Although Tang Weiwei was confused and didn't know what Mr. Tang meant, she still nodded. Then I'll go look for Master Yang tomorrow. As for Xiao Jing, just follow me to investigate the situation more recently. Old Master Tang spoke again. Tang Jing also nodded to indicate his agreement. He wanted to see who this person was who was directly trying to murder Mr. Tang. How could he do such a cruel thing? The next day, Yang Tian absorbed the last bit of body's spiritual energy, exhaled a breath of foul air, and then he slowly opened his eyes. Moving his head, he felt endless power filling his body. This 1,000-year-old spirit stone is quite useful. It would be even better if I had another string of it. After absorbing this spiritual stone, he felt that he was not far from breaking through the heavenly mirror image. Thinking that he would soon be able to break through, Yang Tian couldn't help but feel excited. The spiritual stones are hidden in these small antiques. Why not go shopping in the antique mall? Yang Tian held his chin. Having made up his mind, he wrapped up the dull and lifeless spirit stone that had been completely absorbed, and after a quick wash, Yang Tian walked downstairs. If you are lucky, you might come across this kind of thing in the antique mall. With the intention of giving it a try, Yang Tian quickened his pace. Haisha, a street of antiques. Yang Tian was eating a freshly made hot egg-filled pancake while walking towards the antique shop on the street. Yang Tian did not choose to go into the smaller stores on the street to check out the goods, but directly chose the largest store, Tianshi. The architecture of Tianshi is very classical, and the decoration inside is especially stunning after entering. This is a corridor-style store with all kinds of rare antiques displayed on both sides of the corridor, and they are expensive. Sir, what would you like to see? The waiter in classical clothes came up to greet him enthusiastically. Yang Tian waved his hand, and his eyes first fixed on the bottle at the highest point, which was only as big as a small medicine bottle. The name of the bottle was written on the front of it, Jade and Gold Bottle with Green Dragon Pattern. Yang Tian was delighted. He didn't expect that he would be able to get the goods on his first visit. Although this jade gold bottle with a blue dragon pattern is not as spiritual as the body fruit bracelet that Grandpa Tang wears, a mosquito is still meat no matter how small it is. Looking at other antiques in the store, Yang Tian shook his head. It seemed that this kind of spiritual stone was not something you could get just by wanting it. It required a certain fate. This jade and gold bottle with a blue dragon pattern is nice. How much is it? Yang Tian asked. This bottle is really good. It is said to be very old. It is a bottle from the Song dynasty. It is quite expensive, with a starting price of 10 million, said the waiter. Then please help me pack it up now. Yang Tian didn't care about the price at all and planned to buy it on the spot. The waiter was very puzzled as to why Yang Tian did not give a discount. Anyone who collects antiques knows that there is a lot of water involved. Looking at Yang Tian in front of him, doesn't he look like a rich man? Should she pack it or not? Just as the waiter was stunned, a middle-aged man in a simple robe with gold edges came out hurriedly. Liu, I told you last time that I want this bottle. The starting price is 10 million. I'll pay 11 million, and give me this bottle. The man said, frowning slightly. After looking at Yang Qian for a few times, he said, it was almost taken away by someone else. What are you doing? Don't you know the first come first served principle? The waiter Liu glanced at the middle-aged man in front of him and was obviously stunned. Isn't this their boss? Later she realized that the boss was trying to trick Yang Qian and wanted to catch him because he was inexperienced. So she started to act like a showman and said hurriedly, look, my memory is so bad. I'm sorry, customer. I'll pay you. Well, young man, I'm afraid I can't sell you this bottle. Please see. Chapter 9. Still want to trick Yang Qian. 12 million. Yang Qian said. When they heard Yang Qian raise the price, both the waiter and the middle-aged man showed joy on their faces. Isn't this the effect they want? The middle-aged man suppressed his joy and pretended to be angry, frowning. What are you doing? Are you trying to snatch this bottle from me? Although Yang Qian couldn't guess what the relationship between the two people was, he could feel that they were acquaintances. If he wants to act, he can just cooperate with them. 13 million. Yang Qian continued to raise the price. This is too exaggerated. The onlookers have already begun to sigh. 14 million. The middle-aged man did not give in at all. The bidding between the two people attracted a lot of onlookers. 15 million. Yang Qian continued. When the middle-aged man heard that the price had dropped by 15 million, he became completely stunned. 16 million, the middle-aged man continued. This time it was Yang Qian's turn to remain silent. After a moment, Yang Qian spoke again. 18 million. Hiss. The people around gasped. Is this jade and gold bottle with blue dragon pattern really that valuable? At this time, some old antique collectors who knew the truth began to feel sorry for it. Out of consideration for the young man and to remind the owner, several old players started talking. Young man, the antique world is very complicated. 18 million is a bit high. How can this small bottle be worth such a high price? Lao Xiong, you often play these things, but it's not like you to pay such a high price. But at this time, the middle-aged man named Lao Xiong had fallen into the trap of money and refused to listen to any advice. Pretending to be very angry, Lao Xiong slammed the table and shouted, you insist on being stubborn with me. I'll give you 20 million. I don't believe I can't deal with you, kid. 20 million. Yang Qian also showed off his acting skills and fell into deep thought. This made Lao Xiong start to worry, wondering if he had added too much money. Yang Qian's eyes moved across the jade gold bottle with a blue dragon pattern. After a moment, he sighed helplessly, and after a moment, he showed hesitation again. Such performance also made several old players who knew the situation at the scene anxious. This bottle is not worth 20 million, so I'd better give it to you. Yang Qian sighed, indicating that he gave up. Now it's Lao Xiong's turn to be anxious. What do you mean? Lao Xiong shouted angrily. He felt like he was being played by the young man in front of him. It's fair competition, isn't it? Yang Qian glanced at the old man and laughed in his heart. Still want to trick Yang Qian? You are still a little naive. Lao Xiong knew that he had made a mistake, so he gave up and said, then I don't want this bottle either. Are you sure you don't want it? You made the offer with great difficulty. Yang Qian continued to ask. No. Why the hell do I want this? Lao Xiong started swearing. Well, you heard it, right? He gave up. Yang Qian said, and then said, then I want this bottle. Puff. The old GU players next to them who were drinking water sprayed all over the floor, and some were trying not to laugh in person. The old face has circles of red and black on it. Good boy, you actually played with him. He had been in the dormitory for so many years, but this was the first time he was played by such a little guy. The old minister wanted to continue speaking, but Yang Qian did not give him the opportunity and spoke first. There is a rule in the bidding. If you give up, you will not have the right to buy back the original item. I see that you are also an antique lover. There are so many of your friends here. You won't regret it, will you? Yang Qian's words stifled Lao Xiong. Lao Xiong was a face-saving person. Even if he knew the old guys around him, he denied it angrily. How is it possible? Yang Qian nodded and said, this item is priced at 5 million. It is in very good condition, but there is a defect on the mouth of the bottle. That won't work. Liu denied it immediately. How can you just cut the price in half? That's not the way to bargain. But Yang Qian didn't care at all and prepared to leave Tianshi. If you can't give it to me, I'll go to the next door. I just saw that they have it too. The store next door is called Yuan Tang. Based on his observation when he entered the store just now, the two stores are definitely in opposition. After Yang Qian said this, the old prime minister really got anxious and secretly pushed Liu. If you don't make the deal at this time, you will suffer a huge loss. Although he was heartbroken that 20 million had been reduced to 5 million, his loss would be even greater if he could not sell it. The bottles cost 4.7 million yuan to purchase, so we can make 300,000 yuan by selling them now, right? Liu immediately understood what his shop owner meant. Pretending to be embarrassed and sighing, he stepped forward to stop Yang Qian, who was about to leave, and said, "Young sir, it is fate that you have come across this jade gold blue dragon patent bottle. 5 million is 5 million, we will sell it to you, even if we lose a little." When Liu came over, Yang Qian stopped and turned around and said, "Okay, wrap it up. Then young man, just follow me." Liu led Yang Qian to the checkout counter. When the old antique collectors nearby saw Yang Qian like this, they all smiled secretly. "We all told you not to overdo it, but look at you now, har har har." Old Qi stepped forward and laughed. "You know shit." Their hot-tempered Lao Xiong was not convinced and made the people around him laugh even more wildly. Yang Qian naturally heard what these old players said, and a smile appeared on his lips. After he paid the bill at the cashier, he looked back at the old man and said, "Irritability, weak blood, difficulty sleeping at night, and blood disaster in the head." After a pause, he continued, "Old smoker, take care of your lungs. You may have a disaster in the next few days. If it can't be cured, you'll die." After saying this, Yang Qian walked out of Tianshi in a leisurely manner. "Hey, you little bastard, explain it to me clearly. How can you curse people like that?" the boss yelled. "Can't you make people angry when you cheat them?" Old Qi came up and made fun of Lao Xiong. But it seems that what this kid said is quite accurate. "Old Xiong, you are indeed irritable and a smoker. Sometimes you feel it is difficult to breathe, right?" said another old man. "You're right. I should go check my lungs." The old man realized it belatedly, and the atmosphere became so mysterious. But thinking of what happened to Yang Qinking just now, the veins on the old man's forehead bulged, and he said coldly, "Humph. Who believes in such things?" Then he said, "Young people nowadays are really outrageous. He has a lot of resources behind him. If he is really sick, he will be treated with the most advanced medical methods. Do we still need to believe what this young boy says?" Thinking of what Yang Qian had just said, about the death and illness, the old minister became angrier. He stretched out his hand to call a few servants and said, "Go, follow this brat and get the jade gold blue dragon patent bottle back. Anyone who dares to provoke him is simply ungrateful." Chapter 10, The meeting fee is 30 million? When Yang Qian walked out of Tianshi, he felt some sneaky auras behind him, but he didn't take it to heart. He continued walking towards several nearby antique shops, and spent the entire morning searching for treasures that contained spiritual energy. It was almost noon when he finally walked out of the antique street. Because Dao brought a lot of antiques, Yang Qian also specially prepared a set of antique bags for him. It seems that there are not many treasures of this kind. Yang Qian complained. "I spent more than 20 million Daobao treasures in one morning, but some of these treasures only had a trace of spiritual energy." At this moment, Yang Qian also truly demonstrated the meaning of the saying that no matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat. It seems that the situation like that of Mr. Tang is extremely unlikely to occur. We can't be too impatient when it comes to cultivation. Yang Qian sighed with relief, and at the same time he noticed his balance, which only had a few million left. The money is going away too fast. I have to find another way to make money. Although he said this, Yang Qian decided to find a place to rest and have a meal first. Jingle. As soon as Yang Qian walked into the shade, his cell phone rang, and he had no choice but to answer it. "Who is it?" Yang Qian asked puzzledly. "Master Yang, it's me." Tang Weiwei's face was filled with excitement when she heard Yang Qian's voice. She thought Yang Qian wouldn't answer her call. "Well, what's the matter?" Yang Qian was a little confused. Why did Tang Weiwei call him at this time? Logically, everything should have been arranged yesterday. There is indeed something going on. Master Yang, where are you now? My grandfather has some health problems again. Tang Weiwei said. Yang Tian wanted to hang up the phone after hearing this. He had already repaid his debt to Mr. Tang twice. He didn't want to get involved in the Tang family's affairs. Thinking of this, Yang Tian wanted to hang up the phone. Mr. Tang and I just met once. If there is a problem, just go find another doctor to solve it. After saying this, Yang Tian hung up the phone. Tang Weiwei was about to speak when she heard a beep. Yang Tian actually hung up her phone like that. Tang Weiwei became anxious and called back, but this time Yang Tian hung up faster. Yang Tian was interested in freedom and didn't want to get involved in the family affairs. Seeing the familiar phone number still flashing on his phone, Yang Tian directly chose to block it. After absorbing the spiritual energy of these antiques, he will leave High City tomorrow. Tang Weiwei and I were just casual acquaintances. Tang Weiwei's next call was instantly rejected. She immediately realized that Yang Tian had blocked her. Looking at Xiao Xiao behind her, Tang Weiwei hurriedly said, "Quick, Xiao Xiao, give me your phone." "Oh, okay." Xiao Xiao didn't know what was going on and just followed orders. Tang Weiwei picked up the phone, entered Yang Tian's phone number, and continued to press the dial button. After a while, the call was connected, which made Tang Weiwei look happy. Yang Tian didn't expect Tang Weiwei to change her phone number and call him again. Wasn't his refusal obvious? Yang Tian said helplessly, "Miss Tang, we 30 million. Tang Weiwei spoke faster than Yang Tian. Hearing another 30 million, Yang Tian's eyes lit up and he said hurriedly, "I'm at the small path over here at Qiantangshi. I've sent you the address. Come pick me up." Tang Weiwei breathed a sigh of relief when she received the address. She had come here with the attitude of giving it a try, but she didn't expect that it would succeed. After hanging up the phone, Tang Weiwei immediately asked Xiao Xiao to prepare the car. Xiao Xiao, who was standing next to her, saw Tang Weiwei's movements and the 30 million she mentioned at the end, and vaguely understood something. She frowned and said, "Is it the Master Yang we met yesterday?" "Yes, it's Master Yang." Tang Weiwei replied. Xiao Xiao's face wrinkled even more tightly. "Miss, you spent 30 million just to see him? You don't understand. A master like Master Yang cannot be measured by money." Tang Weiwei interrupted what Xiao Xiao was about to say. Xiao Xiao was interrupted and didn't know what to say. After all, she wasn't a member of the Tang family, and the information she knew was only partial. She could only respond, "Then I'll go get the car ready." Yang Tian agreed because he happened to have no money to spend at the moment, otherwise he would not have replied so easily. Looking at the cats and dogs that were still following him, Yang Tian's figure flashed and disappeared in front of several people. Several people in Qiantangshi saw Yang Tian disappear on the spot, and the leader rubbed his eyes. Where are the people? The younger brother in Qiantangshi was confused. How come he disappeared all of a sudden? We lost him, another younger brother also said. The leader frowned, knocked on his younger brother's head, and said angrily, "I told you not to focus. How could such a big person disappear in an instant?" But he really did. The younger brother was hit again and then he shut up in grievance. Several people really just watched Yang Tian disappear like this. It's not their fault. Search, maybe he is hiding somewhere. The leader said, and several younger brothers also searched the place, but they couldn't find Yang Tian at all. After searching in vain, they could only return to Qiantang Hall cursing. Yang Tian, who was on the roof, saw a few people leave, calculated the time, and thought that Tang Weiwei would be almost there, so he jumped down from the roof. Tang Weiwei arrived indeed very quickly, this time driving a brand new Rolls-Royce. "Miss, we're here," Xiao Xiao said in the car. "Why can't I see Master Yang?" Tang Weiwei looked confused. Could he be away from home? Why is Master Yang never punctual? Xiao Xiao was a little angry. Why am I not on time? Yang Tian suddenly appeared in front of the car door and looked at Xiao Xiao, shocking Xiao Xiao into a cold sweat. Why are you so sudden? Xiao Xiao, don't be rude. Tang Weiwei said hurriedly. Seeing Yang Tian appear, she opened the car door and motioned Yang Tian to get in. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao had to shut up. Yang Tian quickly got into the car and fastened his seat belt before turning around and asking Tang Weiwei, "What happened to Mr. Tang?" Tang Weiwei was a little panicked when Yang Tian asked her this directly, and said, Master Yarn needs to go and see it in person to know the answer. Yang Qian nodded, noticing some strange emotions from Tang Weiwei, but he didn't take it to heart, and said, let's go directly to the Tang family. As if he had thought of something, he said, by the way, you don't have to call me master all the time, just call me Xiao Yarn, and it's okay to call me brother Yarn. Yang Qian said with a smile. Hearing Yang Qian calling him brother, Tang Weiwei's face flushed immediately, and she was so shy. What are you thinking? How could I? Tang Weiwei stopped talking halfway, and then realized that she was very emotional, and then said, I will just call you brother Yang. Yang Qian shrugged helplessly and said, that's fine, brother Yang. Let's go. Chapter 11, Tang Family Treasure. It was more than an hour later when we arrived at Tang's house. Tang Weiwei took Yang Qian to the living room. Yang Da, brother Yang, wait a moment, I'll go call grandpa. Tang Weiwei quickly changed the subject, and then ordered, Xiao Xiao, go make brother Yang a cup of tea. Okay. Xiao Xiao responded quickly and helped Yang Qian make tea. Just make some water flower tea, anything else is not very palatable. Yang Qian said. Xiao Xiao responded with, okay, again, but the expression on her face became more and more impatient. Xiao Xiao placed the brewed tea leaves in front of Yang Qian with a par and turned her head away without saying anything. Yang Qian didn't take it seriously. He had noticed Xiao Xiao's hostility towards him when he got in the car just now, but it was not a big deal. Xiao Xiao snorted coldly at Yang Qian, whose words and actions were not elegant at all. He is only interested in profit. Although he saved the master's life, she hates such people the most. They actually made their young lady be so humble. The two of them didn't speak, and the atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Xiao Yang? You're here. Old Master Tang's voice broke the quiet atmosphere before he even showed up. Yang Qian glanced at Mr. Tang and was a little confused for a moment, because Mr. Tang's physical condition was obviously normal. Yang Qian was a little puzzled and asked, what's wrong with your body? Aren't you very healthy? You are recovering very well. Being asked this question in person, both Mr. Tang and Tang Weiwei seemed a little embarrassed. Tang Weiwei, in particular, shrank behind Mr. Tang and started playing with her fingers shyly. Seeing this, Yang Qian instantly realized that he had been deceived by Tang Weiwei. Mr. Tang is not sick at all. Knowing this, Yang Qian was a little unhappy and stood up and said, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. Yang Qian hated people who told liars the most. Although he didn't know why he was summoned in this way, Yang Qian was very unhappy at this moment. He strode out and was ready to leave the Tang family. But at this time, Tang Weiwei hurried forward and grabbed Yang Qian. Hey! Don't go, brother Yang. Then she said, I do have something to tell you this time, I just don't know how to call you over. Listening to Tang Weiwei's words, Yang Qian didn't say anything. He pulled Tang Weiwei away and continued to walk outside. Xiao Yang, this time it was Weiwei who offended you, but I do need a favor from you. Elder Tang said. Seeing that Yang Qian was still unmoved, Elder Tang hurriedly said, this time it's about the body bracelet. Hearing body, Yang Qian stopped. Seeing that Yang Qian didn't continue to walk out, Tang Weiwei also breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly told Xiao Xiao beside her, quick, go get the invoice and bring it to brother Yang. Oh, okay. Xiao Xiao nodded and had to do as she was told. An invoice for 30 million yuan was stuffed into Yang Qian's arms. He then turned to look at Mr. Tang and sized him up. Old Master Tang breathed a sigh of relief, his forehead beaded with sweat, and he said hurriedly, Weiwei is ignorant. I didn't expect that you would use this method to call you, Xiao Yang. Weiwei, why don't you apologize to Xiao Yang? Old Master Tang pretended to be angry and looked at Tang Weiwei sternly. Tang Weiwei was scolded and immediately wilted. She bit her lip and said, I'm sorry, brother Yang. Mr. Tang was also a sensible person, and he said, go back to your room and reflect on your mistakes. If you don't feel remorseful, you don't have to come out tonight. Yes. Tang Weiwei had no choice but to respond with her head down and return to her room. Hey, miss. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao followed closely behind Tang Weiwei. Seeing that Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao had left their hall, Mr. Tang smiled apologetically at Yang Qian and said, look, Xiao Yang, I didn't expect Weiwei to say this to you. I have already punished her to reflect on it. Let's. Yang Qian knew that the reason why Mr. Tang did all this was to get him out of office, so he would naturally not give him face. What's more, he was interested in what Mr. Tang had just said about the body bracelet. Let's talk inside, Yang Tian said. Mr. Tang nodded immediately after hearing this. Okay, this way please. The two walked around several rooms and came to a place that looked like a warehouse. Mr. Tang didn't waste any time. He pressed one of the bricks on the wall and opened the hidden entrance inside. Yang Tian was slightly surprised to see this scene. This kind of mysterious mechanical technique was also used by his master before. It was a very concealed method of hiding things. He didn't expect to see it in the Tang family. The bricks on the top of the wall were pushed away, and an ebony box was pulled out from the top. Mr. Tang also took the ebony box down. There are 17 chains hanging on the sandalwood box, which shows the importance of this box. Although it is called the 17 chain, it is actually an extremely difficult chain to unlock. It needs to be unlocked 18 times in a row. It is also the crystallization of the wisdom of the ancients. This is what I want to tell you this time. Mr. Tang opened the ebony box and handed it to Yang Tian. Inside was a heavy black lacquered scroll. Yang Tian looked at the scroll and frowned. It is a very strange feeling. The scroll looks inconspicuous on the surface, but it seems to hide a very profound power inside, which seems to be there and not there. Driven by curiosity, Yang Tian reached out and gently stroked the black lacquered scroll, his eyes flickering slightly as his spiritual energy covered it. The black lacquer scroll sensed the spiritual energy, and the surface began to emit golden light. Yang Tian felt his consciousness was hazy, as if he was brought into a certain realm. When he woke up again, his eyes were filled with immense excitement. This scroll contains boundless spiritual energy, which is similar to the existence of a cultivation space. Although he didn't know what kind of treasure this was, it was definitely a good thing that would help him make a breakthrough in his cultivation. From Mr. Tang's perspective, he didn't know what Yang Tian was looking at. He just felt that he was in a daze and thought that Yang Tian was not interested. Cold sweat kept coming out of Mr. Tang's forehead. He asked tentatively, "Xiao Yang?" Yang Tian regained consciousness and glanced at old Master Tang before saying, "Such a precious treasure must be the treasure of your Tang family. Why are you showing it to me so easily? Do you have something to ask of me?" It was hard for Yang Tian not to admit that he was moved. He had come down the mountain to gain experience just to break through his cultivation. Encountering such a treasure at this time would undoubtedly help him break through. As a cultivator, he knew very well that opportunities and treasures required luck. When Mr. Tang heard what Yang Tian said, he breathed a sigh of relief, his face suddenly filled with joy, and he slowly spoke. "I do have a request of yours. I want you to protect the Tang family in Weiwei, and let her become the head of the Tang family." Chapter 12. The old man's medicinal herbs were actually replaced. Let Tang Weiwei become the head of the Tang family. Yang Tian was obviously confused. Tang Weiwei became the head of the Tang family. What did Mr. Tang think? Thinking of Tang Weiwei's usual silly appearance, Yang Tian frowned. "Yeah." Mr. Tang responded calmly. Now it was Yang Tian's turn to be puzzled. Although he didn't want to know about the internal affairs of the Tang family. "I thought you would let me protect you, but I didn't expect it would be Tang Weiwei." Yang Tian said, "How can you believe that I can help you protect the Tang family and Tang Weiwei? I can definitely take the treasure and leave." By now, Yang Tian was basically certain that the fight between him and the tiger shark had been reported to Grandpa Tang by Tang Weiwei. Otherwise, Mr. Tang wouldn't have come to him to discuss this matter for no reason. "I have no way." Elder Tang smiled bitterly. He really had no way if Yang Tian wanted to take this treasure away. "But since you are interested in this kind of thing, it should be related to the cultivators." Hearing the cultivators mentioned by Mr. Tang, Yang Tian's eyes narrowed and he quickly asked, "Do you know any information about this?" But Mr. Tang shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. This treasure was passed down to the Tang family by our ancestors. It is said that it was left by an immortal. When the older generation of the family was still alive, they often mentioned that this item could help the Tang family survive danger. When I became the patriarch, it was my turn to take care of it. It's just that this thing has been passed down from generation to generation to me, but I have never been able to find someone who is destined to have it. After saying this, Mr. Tang's eyes fell on Yang Tian. Yang Tian was silent, looking at his baby in deep thought. After a while, he spoke, "I still need to think about this matter, so I can't give you an answer right away." Mr. Tang nodded in understanding, but still felt relieved. He also had the mentality of trying everything possible and thought of using this to negotiate with Yang Qian. After all, the body bracelet at that time was also an item left by his ancestors. He didn't expect that the bet was really right this time. Yang Qian was really interested in this. Regardless of how strong Yang Qian is, his attainments in medical skills are enough to make him spend such a huge amount of money. If Yang Qian is willing to help the Tang family, he, the Tang family and Wei Wei will have an extra trump card. Just come to me whenever you feel like it. Elder Tang said as he put the treasure away and put it back in its place. Yang Qian nodded to show that he understood. In fact, if he wanted to get the treasure, he didn't need to consider what Master Tang said. However, due to virtue and the teachings of his master, it was absolutely impossible for him to just rob it. The moment my spiritual consciousness was brought in by this thing just now, my cultivation level increased a lot. Yang Qian muttered softly, feeling the power between his fingers. The spiritual energy contained in that black scroll is vast and majestic, it is definitely a top treasure. Xiaoyan, what did you say? Old Master Tang looked at Yang Qian in confusion, not hearing clearly what he said just now. Yang Qian also immediately pretended to be in a bad mood and said, nothing, nothing. Then he thought that he seemed to have received 30 million yuan from Tang Weiwei. He couldn't just take her money for nothing. After thinking for a moment, he said again. By the way, add a piece of chichen to the herbs I asked you to get last time. This kind of herbs can properly resist poisons. This can be considered as the money from the invoice just now. It can help you offset a lot of hidden tricks. Yang Qian said again. Upon hearing this, Mr. Tang was a little amused and helpless. Yang Xiao's style of doing things was really tit for tat. No problem. Mr. Tang responded. Yang Qian nodded, and then said, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. But after he said this, he looked at Mr. Tang's body again and felt something was wrong. Have you been taking the medicine according to my prescription recently? Elder Tang nodded doubtfully and said, yes, I took the medicine according to the prescription, and my health has improved a lot. No, that's not right. Yang Qian injected spiritual energy into his eyes, and when he looked at Mr. Tang's body again, he found something wrong, and then said, can you show me the prescription? Okay. Old Master Tang didn't know what Yang Qian was going to do, so he took him to his own medicine room. Yang Qian opened one of the packages of medicine, looked at the herbs on it and was silent for a moment, then said, 2 of the herbs were replaced by someone else. When Mr. Tang heard that 2 plants were replaced, his face turned pale. No way, that's impossible, I asked someone close to me to buy this medicine. Well, although 2 herbs were replaced, the replacement was very clever. The 2 herbs can just make up for the effect I wrote before, but... Yang Qian paused for a moment and said, this is not a poison, it is a tonic. If you take too much of it, you will fall into a coma. Hearing what Yang Qian said, Mr. Tang felt cold sweat on his back. This is more terrifying than poison. At the same time, he was more convinced in his heart that it was the right thing for him to talk to Yang Qian and ask Yang Qian to help the Tang family. Yang Qian is indeed a master, his strength should not be underestimated. Then what should we do about Xiaoyan? Old Master Tang was panicked. Go buy it yourself and boil the medicine yourself. Yang Qian said nonchalantly. Yang Qian didn't expect that in just a short while, the people who wanted to poison Master Tang started to act again. They were so rampant. Okay, Xiaoyan, please rewrite the recipe of the medicinal materials and tell me how to decoct the medicine. You can name any price you want. Old Master Tang was almost dying of anxiety. You don't need to pay. Yang Qian said, I can write you another prescription or something. Thank you, Xiaoyan. Old Master Tang hurriedly held Yang Qian's arm to thank him. Yang Qian took out a pen and paper and began to write down the medicinal materials and the methods of decoction. However, he had just written a few words when he was interrupted by the sound of a bottle breaking coming from the Tang family's hall. The sound was extremely harsh. Boom! Another kick on the door was heard, followed by footsteps outside, and then a rough voice resounded throughout the Tang family. Old man of the Tang family, Tang Weiwei, you two come out here. You must give our Meng family an explanation. Another voice followed, Tang Weiwei, come out here. You're running away from my marriage and embarrassing me in public. The menacing people were none other than the servants of the Meng family and Meng Guanren. A group of them were guarding the hall of the Tang family with ferocious looks on their faces. Are you not coming out yet? Break it for me. Meng Guanren shouted, and then the sound of breaking glass could be heard throughout the living room. It's your fault for bringing shame to our master, old dog of the Tang family. If you don't come out now, you can forget about keeping the Tang family. The younger brother of the Meng family shouted. The crackling sound made people feel uneasy, and everyone in the Tang family became chaotic. What are you doing? The Tang family bodyguard came, but before he could say 2 words, he was knocked down by Meng Guangren's younger brother. He looked like he was here to cause trouble. You old dog from the Tang family, if you don't come out, we are going to destroy your Tang family. Chapter 13. The person who escaped marriage came to the door. People outside were shouting, but Zhang Tian was extremely calm. Looking at the helpless Mr. Tang next to him, Zhang Tian jokingly asked, "Hey, Miss Tang is still trying to run away from marriage." Recalling the scene when he first met Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao, Zhang Tian finally remembered what Tang Weiwei said about running away from her marriage. Mr. Tang looked very embarrassed and said slowly, "This is a difficult family scandal. Xiao Yan, just wait here." Yang Qian shrugged, ignored the situation outside, turned around and continued to write the prescription and brewing method in his hand. Since it was the Tang family's affair, Yang Qian naturally couldn't help much. It would be better for him to finish his work and go back to eat as soon as possible. Although Yang Qian did not follow Master Tang out, he could still hear what happened in their hall. Tang family hall. At this time, Meng Guangren and his men had already smashed a large number of items, and the Tang family, which had been well organized, became unsightly. The few younger brothers who had just started shouting were still shouting, "Old dog Tang, get out now. Our master is waiting for you. This Tang family is so bold. Forget about the trivial matters, they even dare to run away from the marriage and offend our master Meng. That's right, they really don't know what's good for them. No wonder the Tang family can only be suppressed by the Meng family, har har har." Several younger brothers shouted below. Meng Guangren sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, looking like a big shot. After a while, seeing that Mr. Tang still hadn't come out, he slammed the table and said loudly, "Mr. Tang, if no one from your Tang family responds today, I will spread the news of Tang Weiwei's escape from marriage to all the other major families. Don't expect your family to have an easy time then." "Master Meng, what are you doing again?" Old Master Tang walked out from behind the wall. When a few younger brothers saw Master Tang appear, they pretended to go up and restrain him, wanting to show him a warning. However, Meng Guangren was quick to speak and said, "Don't do it. Get off. Mr. Tang can't stand your torture." "Yes, we were too impatient, young master, we're sorry." Several younger brothers also understood Meng Guangren's intentions and followed him. Meng Guangren was very satisfied with the show of power given by his younger brother, and he looked down at the old man of the Tang family and said, "I thought that such a big family as the Tang family was deserted, and they can't even explain such a thing clearly." When old Master Tang heard this, he naturally understood what Meng Guangren meant. He also said, "Young Master Meng is really young and hot-tempered. Well, our Tang family is big, and Weiwei likes to keep some pets. It's just that this breeding farm needs to be cleaned up." Pfft. Yang Qian in the room almost laughed out loud. How come he didn't realize that Mr. Tang was still such a sharp-tongued person? Isn't the implication that the person on the other side is a beast? When Meng Guangren heard what Mr. Tang said, his face turned red and white. Was this old man determined to cause trouble for him? HMPH. Meng Guangren snorted coldly, and the fat on his body trembled. "Mr. Tang, I didn't come here to quarrel with you this time. I came here to ask for an explanation. It was you who wanted to marry Tang Wei to our Meng family. How come you wanted to run away from the marriage halfway through? Does your Tang family want to have a bad reputation?" Meng Guangren pressed. But Mr. Tang was not panicked at all. Instead, he spoke slowly after a long while. "Weiwei ran away from her marriage. How come I didn't know?" Although Weiwei didn't tell him anything, in fact, when he recovered from his illness yesterday and saw Tang Weiwei by his side, he had already guessed something. Moreover, he had originally turned a blind eye to this marriage. Later, when I was on the verge of death, I figured out some things. Since Weiwei didn't want to, I let her go. Meng Guangren was expectantly waiting for Mr. Tang to speak, but when he saw his reaction, his face darkened and he shouted, "Are you kidding me?" Mr. Tang was about to speak, but at this time Tang Weiwei opened the door, walked down from the stairs, and said across the corridor, "I don't want to marry you. Is there any other reason?" Tang Weiwei walked down the stairs quickly, ignoring Xiao Xiao who was pulling her. Xiao Xiao also looked anxious. When she saw the scene in the hall, her face turned pale. She hurriedly said, "Miss, the old man told you not to come down. Go back quickly." Tang Weiwei shook off Xiao Xiao's hand and snorted, "Why should I go back? This matter was caused by me. Naturally, I need to solve it." As she spoke, Tang Weiwei began to look at Meng Guanren. "And what are you asking for an explanation? You don't need to ask. The only thing you need to ask is that you are too ugly. Fat and smelly. And your character is terrible." Tang Weiwei's words echoed throughout the Tang family hall. Old Master Tang frowned and shouted, "Weiwei." He had just specifically told Tang Weiwei not to come down. Meng Guanren couldn't do anything to him. This would only cause more trouble. "Grandpa, this is a matter between him and me. I should take some responsibility." Tang Weiwei looked determined and took a deep breath. Upon hearing this, Mr. Tang could only sigh helplessly. Meng Guanren, who was standing next to him, was scolded by Tang Weiwei in front of so many people. He immediately turned hostile, with veins bulging on his forehead. He shouted, "What the hell did you say, you damn bitch?" Then he clapped his hands and said, "Okay, you should take responsibility. Mr. Tang, it seems that we can't talk anymore. You, the Tang family, are determined to cause trouble. Someone, arrest Tang Weiwei and Master Tang. Especially this little girl, it seems she won't learn her lesson unless she suffers some physical pain." Meng Guanren waved his hands angrily and immediately ordered his younger brothers. "No problem, sir. You little girl really don't know how to talk. Our Master Meng is so handsome, are you blind? She's quite pretty, she really deserves a beating. Otherwise she won't listen to me." Several younger brothers quickly went upstairs and tried to pin Tang Weiwei down. When Mr. Tang saw Meng Guanren actually started to take action, he panicked and said quickly, "Are you Meng family planning to oppose our Tang family? HMPH, you're running away from my marriage and trying to save my face. Do you still want to get married?" Meng Guanren laughed and felt that Mr. Tang was particularly ridiculous at this moment. Just when the younger brothers and Master Tang were about to arrest him, Yang Qian came out of the room he had just been in. He stretched naturally and said, "Master Tang, I've written it for you. Be careful later." His appearance undoubtedly attracted the attention of everyone present. Yang Qian glanced at Meng Guanren and then at the situation in front of him, shrugged and prepared to leave the Tang family. But how could Meng Guanren allow someone who appeared out of nowhere to just walk away in front of him? He was so angry that he spoke without distinguishing who was who. "What the hell is this? Catch him too." Chapter 14, Showing Off Your Skills. Several younger brothers followed the order and stepped forward to knock Yang Qian down, but he easily avoided them all. "You're quite good at running." The younger brother, who had missed his target, rolled up from the ground and stretched out his hand to attack Yang Qian's neck. The shiny knife seemed dazzling. "Brother Yang! Be careful! Xiao Yang!" Old Master Tang and Tang Weiwei shouted at the same time. Yang Qian glanced to the left, and with lightning speed, he lifted the little brother over his head and turned over to make a beautiful counterattack. Yang Qian broke the younger brother's wrist and snatched the knife from his hand. "R!" The younger brother's face turned pale and he curled up in pain. "Don't block the way." Yang Qian turned around and threw the knife onto the sofa where Meng Guanren was. The knife was only less than a finger's distance away from his cheek. Meng Guanren never expected this to happen. He was so scared that his face turned pale. Then he reacted and felt inexplicably annoyed. "Stop right there." Pulling out the knife, Meng Guanren threw it towards Yang Qian. Yang Qian paused at the door, caught the knife with one hand, turned his head and looked at Meng Guanren with indifferent eyes, his eyes filled with endless murderous intent. This murderous aura was extremely intimidating, as if being stared at by a silver wolf, making people tremble uncontrollably. Meng Guanren was discouraged by Yang Qian's look and a lot of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Then he shook his head and tried to stay calm. Although Meng Guanren usually likes to have fun, he is the son of the Meng family after all, so he naturally sensed the danger in that look. This look is somewhat similar to that of his uncle Liu, who used to be a soldier. The younger brother next to their boss called out softly, "Don't worry about him, just capture Tang Weiwei and old man Tang." Meng Guanren said. The person in front of him didn't look like someone who would care about the Tang family's affairs. Several younger brothers nodded secretly and did not provoke Yang Qian again. Instead, they chose to bring Tang Weiwei and old man Tang over. After this fight, many of the Tang family's bodyguards were alarmed and ran to their hall. However, when they saw that Mr. Tang was kidnapped at knife point, the bodyguards didn't know what to do for a moment. "What are you doing? Put down the knife," the leading bodyguard shouted. "You'd better not move, otherwise something might happen to Mr. Tang and Tang Weiwei." The younger brothers threatened each other with knives, and the group of bodyguards did not dare to move. Yang Qian was unmoved by the scene in front of him and prepared to leave. Seeing Yang Qian was about to leave, Xiao Xiao beside him immediately became anxious. "The young lady and the master are already in this state. Why don't you save them? Is your heart made of iron?" Yang Qian glanced at Xiao Xiao and said, "I have no relationship with the Tang family. His style of doing things is to stay out of other people's business." "You?" Xiao Xiao didn't know what to say after hearing these words. She felt even more disgusted with Yang Qian. How could this man be so heartless and not even help others? Har har har. Meng Guangren found it funny when he saw this scene. When he saw Yang Qian, he walked over to try to get close to him. "Brother, I see you have some skills. Why don't you come to our Meng family to do some work?" Meng Guangren put his hands on Yang Qian's shoulders, and his greasy face made people feel annoyed. He just saw this little brother's strange appearance. It seems that he is not from the Tang family. In addition, Yang Qian's moves show that he is a martial artist. If he can recruit this little brother to his Meng family. Meng Guangren began to indulge in unrealistic fantasies. Yang Qian frowned. He was annoyed by people who put their hands on other people's shoulders. He stretched out his hand and directly twisted one of Meng Guangren's hands off. "Arr!" Meng Guangren screamed in pain, then covered his injured arm and stared at Yang Qian with wide eyes. You. Don't be ungrateful." Although he said that, he found that he couldn't stand Yang Qian at all. Furious, Meng Guangren secretly memeized Yang Qian's expression and ignored him. Instead, he chose Tang Weiwei. "Beat this bitch up, and send her back to her room after she behaves. I'm going to succeed this time." With Meng Guangren's order, several of his brothers were about to take action. Seeing this, old Master Tang became anxious and said hurriedly, "Xiao Yan, save Weiwei. Help us settle this matter, and I can give you the treasure in advance, or you can name a price." Hearing what Mr. Tang said, Yang Qian paused in his footsteps. Mr. Tang always set conditions that interested him, and there was nothing he could do about it. "Are you serious?" Yang Qian asked again. Mr. Tang nodded and said quickly, "Really? Profit-seeking." Xiao Xiao snorted coldly. But Yang Qian didn't mind at all. After hearing what Mr. Tang said, he immediately took action. He retreated behind Tang Weiwei at an extremely fast speed. Before those younger brothers could react, he had already restrained them all. Such a fast speed made Mr. Tang's eyes shrink, and he began to believe what Tang Weiwei said about Yang Qian's fight. After taking the mace from the back of one of the younger brothers, Yang Qian defeated this group of younger brothers as quickly as possible. The whole thing lasted only a few seconds, and the living room was filled with screams, like purgatory. You don't care about the Tang family's business, do you?" Meng Guangren said in fear. "Don't come near me, or I'll call for help." However, Yang Qian ignored Meng Guangren's words and punched him directly in the face, even crooking his nose. "Arr!" Meng Guangren covered his nose in pain, blood from his nose flowed to his mouth, and he looked extremely embarrassed. "Wait for me, I'll call now." Meng Guangren said this and made a direct call. Yang Qian stepped on Meng Guangren. If he waited any longer at this time, he would be crazy. However, the person on the other end answered the phone very quickly. The call was answered in seconds. When Meng Guangren saw the call was connected, he held the phone tightly, as if he had found a life-saving straw. He said, "Uncle Liu, save me." "Arr!" But he only said these few words before Yang Qian stomped on his phone and smashed it, then hit Meng Guangren on the head, causing him to faint. The whole process went on so smoothly that the people around were afraid to say a word. Meng Guangren's team was wiped out in an instant. This is too horrible. A little bodyguard looked at Yang Qian with stars in his eyes. He is simply his idol. It's so powerful, so powerful. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have thought I was dreaming. This guy is the most awesome fighter I've ever seen, so handsome. Xiao Xiao, who was standing by, had mixed feelings when she saw Yang Qian being so fierce. Although the man in front of her was profit-seeking and a bit annoying, he was quite handsome when they really fought. After swallowing her saliva, Xiao Xiao said in a trembling voice, "Isn't this too exaggerated?" Chapter 15 Like a God of War. Grandpa, I've taken care of the matter for you. Does what you just said still count? After Yang Qian finished his work, he was the first to help Grandpa Tang up. Exactly. Old Master Tang's face turned pale as he looked at the unfinished game in front of him. Isn't this Yang Qian too powerful? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed what had just happened. Several young and strong thugs were dealt with by Yang Qian in just a few seconds. At this moment, Mr. Tang respected Yang Qian even more in his heart, and even felt that the previous negotiations with Yang Qian were much pale. How could such a great man be willing to stay in the Tang family? Wei Wei, go get the treasures from the warehouse and give them to Xiao Yan. Mr. Tang ordered, but Tang Wei Wei did not take any action, which made the old man frown and continued to call out, Wei Wei. Tang Wei Wei didn't say anything. After a while, she raised her head and yelled at Yang Qian, "Why didn't you save us just now? If my grandfather didn't tell you, would you have left directly?" Tang Wei Wei. Don't be rude. Old Master Tang said hurriedly. Yang Qian looked at Tang Wei Wei, who was crying with tears in her eyes, and felt that her question was a bit strange. Tang Wei Wei was extremely scared. She simply couldn't imagine what kind of horrible scene would have occurred if Yang Qian had not taken action just now, and what would have been the outcome for him and his grandfather. Can you just watch me and my grandfather being beaten by the Meng family? Are you really going to ignore a matter like this that involves human life? Tang Wei Wei was very emotional and directed all her anger at Yang Qian. At this moment, she felt that Yang Qian in front of her was just like that. Go back and calm down. You have no manners at all. Old Master Tang's face was already filled with anger. I won't. Tang Wei Wei gritted her teeth and looked at Yang Qian with resentment in her eyes. Under fear and anger, her rationality obviously dropped sharply. Yang Qian didn't take Tang Wei Wei's question seriously. He glanced at Tang Wei Wei and said nothing. Go back. The old man looked at his granddaughter's stubborn look and yelled angrily. This time, Mr. Tang was really angry. Being yelled at by her loving grandfather, Tang Wei Wei's tears fell down and she was frozen in place. Grandpa, you have never been so mean to me before. Old Master Tang was also angry. Seeing his granddaughter crying, he felt distressed but couldn't help but scold her. He took a deep breath and said, Now is not the time for you to be willful. As a child of the Tang family, you must always stay sober. Xiao Yang has nothing to do with our Tang family. You were saved because of his help today. He has every right not to help. No one can help you without hesitation. Including me in the future. Mr. Tang finished speaking all these words in one breath. Tang Wei Wei's eyes were dull for a moment and she fell silent. Xiao Xiao, take her back to her room. Old Master Tang turned around and instructed Xiao Xiao. Oh, okay. Xiao Xiao had never seen Grandpa Tang so angry. She hurriedly took Tang Wei Wei's hand and was about to leave. Fortunately, Tang Wei Wei was relatively obedient now, so she pulled her towards the room. Seeing this, Mr. Tang said, Xiao Yan, I'm sorry. Yang Qian nodded when he heard this, and looked at the low-pitched Tang Wei Wei and said, This is hard for you, old man. He could naturally see the good intentions of the old man, who wanted Tang Wei Wei to learn these principles as soon as possible. However, what he said was a bit too harsh. If Tang Wei Wei herself was not quick in understanding, wouldn't the family end up turning against each other? Old Master Tang shook his head helplessly, looking somewhat melancholy. At this moment, Yang Qian suddenly felt a hint of murderous intent, and immediately became alert, looking towards the Tang family hall. At the entrance of Tang's house, 3 sharp weapons were shot towards Yang Qian. Yang Qian was quick and caught the weapons easily. At the same time, clapping sounds were heard at the door of the hall and a tall man with a tough face walked in. What great skills you have! You're worthy of being the one who can take down Meng Xiao and his group. The man said, his eyes full of sharpness. When Yang Qian saw this person, he naturally knew who their visitor was, but he was a little surprised at how fast the other party came. When Mr. Tang saw Uncle Liu's nervous expression, he hurriedly said to Yang Qian, Xiao Yang, this is the thug of the Meng family. He used to be a mercenary and killed many people. Upon hearing this, Yang Qian took a few glances at the person in front of him and found that he was just an ordinary person. Apart from his good physical training, he didn't take it too seriously. Uncle Liu from the opposite side walked in and saw Meng Guangren and the others lying on the ground, not knowing whether they were dead or alive. Seeing Yang Qian's attitude of not taking them seriously at all, he was immediately furious. He said, "You are the one who beat young Master Meng into this state, right? Do you dare to fight me?" Yang Qian was silent and didn't speak for a long time before he said, "You are not my opponent either, give up." This sentence was an absolute provocation to Uncle Liu. He sneered a few times and attacked Yang Qian first. Yang Qian raised his eyes and slowly received the punches from Uncle Liu, receiving each punch so skillfully. Seeing that he had no way to deal with Yang Qian, Uncle Liu became furious and took out the weapon from his waist, ready to fight Yang Qian. However, Yang Qian did not give him the chance. Instead, he easily clamped him and broke both of his arms. The sudden pain made Uncle Liu grit his teeth in agony. Yang Qian pushed him away easily and stood there without moving an inch. This scene was like a master teaching his disciple. The one who is high and mighty is Yang Qian, while Uncle Liu is the one who is being abused and is in a weak position. "Who are you?" Uncle Liu was afraid. When he received the call from his young master, he thought the other party was just an ordinary gangster. He didn't expect that he was actually a man who knew real kung fu. It seemed that he underestimated him. When Mr. Tang and the Tang family bodyguards saw this scene, they couldn't help but marvel at it even though they had seen Yang Qian's abilities before. This is too horrible. Uncle Liu from the Meng family was once a tough mercenary. He can be easily injured. This is like a god of war. Several bodyguards exclaimed. At the same time, Meng Guangren, who had been lying unconscious on the ground, trembled slightly and slowly opened his eyes. Seeing his Uncle Liu rushing over, he felt like he had found a life-saving straw, and hurriedly stood up and crawled towards Uncle Liu. He cried and shed tears, "Uncle Liu, you're finally here." It was him who beat all the brothers down. Meng Guangren pointed at Yang Qian with trembling fingers as he spoke. He was about to ask Uncle Liu to help him up, but when he saw his arms drooping unnaturally, his eyes suddenly lost their luster. This is a symptom of disabled arms. How is this possible? Meng Guangren touched Uncle Liu's arms, and then looked at Yang Qian with his eyes instantly empty. Does that mean Uncle Liu was defeated? Chapter 16, The Old Man is Critically Ill. That's not the case, Uncle Liu. Meng Guangren was still unsure, his face full of urgency, unwilling to admit the reality. How could Uncle Liu be defeated? Uncle Liu is a great general in his family. How could he be defeated by Yang Qian just like that? But no matter how Meng Guangren shook Uncle Liu's arms, those arms were truly unable to move. Even if he didn't want to admit the reality, he had to admit it. "Let's go, Master Meng." Uncle Liu glanced at Yang Qian and said, he was indeed defeated. No. No way. Meng Guangren was angry. What about Tang Weiwei's escape from marriage and the humiliation she caused me? He felt very uncomfortable at this moment. It was embarrassing to escape from marriage, but now he came here to ask for an explanation, and it was even more embarrassing. How could a proud and arrogant person like him accept the result? Looking at Yang Qian, Meng Guangren's eyes were full of resentment. "Yang Qian, just wait for me, I will definitely kill you and make you work like a slave for me," Meng Guangren said viciously. However, Yang Qian didn't care about these verbal attacks at all. What was the situation when verbal attacks were produced? They were all the weak shouting in anger. Yang Qian has a broad vision and strong capabilities, so he doesn't need such meaningless communication at all. "Let's go." Uncle Liu nudged Meng Guangren with his shoulder, signaling him to talk less. Meng Guangren was not convinced, but still followed Uncle Liu outside. When he was about to leave the Tang family's gate, his eyes became fierce, and he picked up the broken glass from the ground and threw it at Yang Qian again. Yang Qian had anticipated this and used his spiritual energy to refute it. Considering that he was in the city, in order to not appear too exaggerated, he deliberately stretched out his hand and made a fake move. "R!" Meng Guangren screamed when his chest was hit by glass fragments. His face turned pale. He didn't dare to speak and followed Uncle Liu with gritted teeth. Yang Qian complained in his heart that he seemed to have used a little too much spiritual energy just now. If it was a little more, it would probably pierce Meng Guangren's heart directly from behind. The body of an ordinary person is still too weak, so he will have to be more cautious when using his spiritual energy in the future. Uncle Liu, Meng Guangren and others at the door also walked away. Just when Yang Qian was about to call it a day, a group of people wearing ancient clothes came to the Tang family's door. "It's right here, Lao Xiang, it's right here," a man who looked older said hurriedly. "Lao Xiang, you have to hold on." Several other people nearby persuaded him. This group of people were exactly the same group of people that Zhang Tianshi met this morning in Tianshi. Among the crowd, a man with a black face and blood spitting from the mouth looked dying. This man was Lao Xiang. The people from Tianshi also ran into the people from the Meng family head-on. Seeing the Meng family members covered in blood, everyone frowned slightly, but no one had time to say anything, because the old man was already dying. Why would someone who owes money to the Tang family go to the Tang family? Meng Guangren said in surprise, enduring the pain. Tianshi is one of the economic chains of the entire high city. Although it is not as powerful as the Meng family, it is an existence that everyone wants to cooperate with and is unwilling to provoke. The Meng family has wanted to cooperate with them for a long time, but they have been rejected every time. They should be looking for the man just now. Uncle Liu said, watching the people from Tianshi walk into the Tang family and start talking to Yang Qian. R. Meng Guangren looked at Yang Qian again, and his suspicion towards him grew. Is this Yang Qian so awesome? Even the people in the dormitory are eager to get to know him? Judging from the attack just now and the current situation, Meng Guangren no longer dared to underestimate Yang Qian, but instead began to consider it carefully. Let's go back first. It's more important to treat our wounds. Uncle Liu's forehead was covered with sweat and his face became paler. If you hesitate any longer at this moment, you may end up being disabled forever. Inside the Tang family's hall, Yang Qian looked at the people in Tianshi with helplessness on his face. He originally wanted to go have a meal, but why did he feel like there were so many things going on today? He looked up at the old man who was being carried here on the bed, and his brows furrowed slightly. Yes, it's this young man. He was the one who said this morning that the old man would have problems with his lungs and would die. One of the old GU players recognized Yang Qian and spoke hurriedly. Did you curse my son? You, the curse master, please remove the curse for me quickly. An elderly lady yelled at Yang Qian. Yang Qian looked a little unhappy, but didn't say anything. Mr. Tang, who was standing nearby, was also very angry when he saw the Tianshi people barging into his Tang family, but he still pretended to be calm and said, "What are you doing here in my Tang family?" You're still asking, the old lady shouted. If it weren't for this little brat, would such a big thing have happened to our son? Quickly remove the curse for me, or be careful that we in the dead hole will never let you go. The old lady was aggressive and attacked Yang Qian with saliva. Hey, old lady, don't be so anxious, calm down. The old ancient player next to her advised, saying that doing so would be somewhat rude to Yang Qian. Unexpectedly, the old lady of Tianshi didn't give any face at all. She immediately attacked Yang Qian with saliva. If you can't save my son today, I will make you pay with your life. Let's go to the court to talk. Yang Qian was annoyed by such impolite people, so he immediately said, You don't even know your son's physical condition, but you blame me when something goes wrong. As a mother, you don't even know your son's physical condition. Are you a qualified mother? The old lady was stunned by Yang Qian's retort, and immediately started to throw a tantrum. What qualifications do you have to judge me? If you don't save my son today, I will never let you off easily. When Yang Qian heard this, he felt helpless for a moment and didn't say another word. This old lady herself had no idea what was going on, and he hated dealing with people like this who didn't realize it. Mom, don't talk like that. Lao Xiong woke up from his coma and said in a daze, Please save my life, young man, cough cough. As he spoke, he vomited a mouthful of blood. The amount of bleeding was so huge that it made people's hearts tremble. When the old lady saw this scene, she became anxious and started crying. You still ask him to save you? You still ask him to save you? Look at what he has done to you. He is just an evil spirit. The old man wanted to speak, but he was too weak to open his mouth. The few old players nearby couldn't stand it anymore after hearing what the old lady said. It even escalated to verbal attack. Old lady, you need to understand the situation. The hospital has no way to save the old man right now. Only the young man in front of you can save him. Yes, old lady, this young man is the only one who saw through the old man's condition this morning. Maybe he has a solution. Chapter 17, Cure. Wait until I finish my meal. Him. The old lady frowned and looked at Yang Qian for a few times. It would be a miracle if he could save my son. This happened because he cursed Xiexiang. The old lady still couldn't understand the situation in front of her and continued to speak unreasonably, which was obviously wasting the best opportunity. Yang Tian naturally didn't care. After all, he and Lao Xiong had only met once, and Lao Xiong's life or death had nothing to do with him. Gurgled Tilder, Yang Tian's stomach growled, and he felt a little embarrassed at the moment. Mr. Tang immediately thought that Yang Tian had come at noon and might not have eaten yet, so he said, "Xiao Yan, why don't you stay for dinner? Let our Aunt Li cook for you, she's a very good cook." "No problem, it's just that these idlers are really annoying." Yang Tian agreed without hesitation. He stayed in the Tang family and had not yet received the treasure. Mr. Tang nodded immediately and looked at Zhang Tianshi and the others. He put on the appearance of the head of the family and said, "You people from Zhang Tianshi are too reckless. You broke into our Tang family without saying a word. Don't you think it's rude, old lady?" When the old lady heard what Mr. Tang said, she opened her mouth to speak, but Mr. Tang did not give her time to speak. Instead, he said, "The Tang family does not welcome uninvited guests. Please go back. He Long will ask those who owe their hall to leave." The leading bodyguard nodded, stepped forward to the people in the hall, and said, "Please go back first." However, the old lady in Tian Tangshi was still angry and would not listen to such words. She was ready to make trouble. He Long was also an experienced man. "If you don't leave, we will have to take action." After He Long finished speaking, the bodyguards around him also followed suit. "Oh. No. We really need a favor from this young man." Upon seeing this, the old player Liu Lao became anxious. "We finally found Yang Tian, how could we let him go? The old lady's life was lost here." Elder Chiu beside him was also anxious. "Madam, please stop being unreasonable. Apologize to this young man." The old lady snorted coldly when she heard this. "Apologize? She will never apologize. You don't ask for help like this." He Long didn't like the old lady very much. "Please ask everyone in Tian Tangshi to leave." With that, the bodyguards began to drive all the people in Tian Tangshi to the front door of the Tang family. "Old man Tang, you are determined to be hostile to our Qiantang temple, right?" The old lady became anxious when she was driven away. As one of the economic entities of High City, when had she ever been treated like this? As soon as the old lady finished speaking, the old prime minister began to cough violently, spitting out blood crazily, which made the people in the hall panic. "Quickly ask that young man." At this time, Lao Xiong began to feel his vision blurred and entered a state of semi-awake and semi-conscious. "Ask, why ask him? You'll be dead if you ask him. Let's go to the hospital." The old lady felt heartbroken when she saw her son in such a condition. When Elder Chiu and the others nearby heard that she was still scolding Yang Tian, they slammed the door, making a noise, and said to the old lady, "Do you understand the current situation? The hospital can't save Lao Xiong. This young man is the only hope to save Lao Xiong." His voice was so loud that the old lady was stunned and covered her heart with her hands. She still refused to admit defeat and continued, "But he said that my son. He said it, he said it." Old Chiu couldn't bear it anymore. "When you were in a hurry, could you think about Lao Xiong's condition? How are Lao Xiong's lungs? We found the young man just for the last chance, and now? You directly snuffed out hope. As Lao Xiong's mother and our elder, how can I say this?" After saying all these words in one breath, old Chiu fell silent. The old lady was also sobered up by the rebuke. She realized that what she had just done was wrong. After she came to her senses, she looked at the old man who was on the verge of death, and then looked at the gate of the Tang family. "What should I do?" She was too persistent just now. When the hospital said that her son could not be saved, she thought that he really could not be saved. Instead, she became discouraged and was rude to Yang Tian. Now that I think about it, she seems to have missed the best time to cure her aging appearance. Looking at He Long in front of her, her fingers trembled a little. "Can you help me tell that young man to come out? I did offend him just now. I was wrong." As she spoke, tears rolled down the old lady's cheeks. She is almost 80 years old now, but she doesn't look old. She is less than 50 and still has plenty of time. She must save her son no matter what. He Long frowned when he saw the old lady in front of him. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "I will convey it. Please wait a moment." Although the person who owed money to Tang Shi had nothing to do with the Tang family, financially and in other aspects it was beneficial to the Tang family. Things could not be done too absolutely. After realizing this, he long instructed other bodyguards to convey the message. At this time, Yang Tian had been brought by Grandpa Tang to the dining room specially for guests. It must be said that the Tang family was very efficient. A lot of dishes were served in less than half a minute after they said they would stay for dinner. Yang Tian looked at the plates of delicious food being served and began to eat voraciously. Especially a honey-glazed roast chicken, he felt that it was a delicacy that sublimated his soul. Seeing that Yang Tian enjoyed the meal, Mr. Tang was naturally in a better mood. He said as he ate, "This is the dish made by Aunt Li. She is a national-level chef. You should eat more. Then I won't be polite." Yang Tian was not a polite person, so he ate with his heart's content. Mr. Tang nodded and was about to talk to Yang Tian about the treasure, but was interrupted by the bodyguard who suddenly arrived. "Master Tang, Master Yang." The bodyguard walked in and bowed, then said, "The people from the Chentang Hall asked me to pass on a message. The old lady said she knew she was wrong, so Master Yang should go to the scene to treat the patient first." Hearing the little bodyguard's words, Mr. Tang first shook his head and sighed in his heart. The old lady in Chentang House was too stubborn and rude, and Yang Tian would most likely not agree given her personality. At the same time, he was also grateful that Yang Tian saved his life. Yang Tian shrugged and said casually, "I have nothing to do with Tian Tangshi. Don't disturb me while I'm eating. Let's talk after I finish eating." "Yes." The little bodyguard glanced at Yang Tian and was secretly amazed at the strength that Yang Tian possessed, but he was just a messenger. Yang Tian continued to have dinner with Mr. Tang, without any sense of tension that anything was going to happen. Chapter 18 helped the Tang family survive 3 crises. In fact, Yang Tian simply ignored those who owed money to their hall. Putting aside the old lady's attitude towards him just now, he was just one of the many buyers who wanted to buy their house. He went to the fortune teller to read his fortune in the morning because the fortune teller and his friends had a bad attitude. He just wanted to play a prank on the fortune teller, so he mentioned it casually. He didn't expect that he would get sick in the evening. Logically speaking, Lao Xiong Shou and Ti have had an attack of illness today. Yang Tian secretly calculated again, with some doubts in his eyes, but he didn't think too much about it. "Xiao Yang, this is the treasure." After the bodyguard left, Mr. Tang took out the ebony box he had prepared long ago. Yang Tian's face lit up immediately, and he took the ebony box and said, "Then I'll take it." Old Master Tang nodded and smiled bitterly when he heard this. He had been thinking of keeping Yang Tian in the Tang family. It seemed that he was just daydreaming. After all, how could such a master with so many abilities stay in the small Tang family? Yang Tian didn't know what Mr. Tang was thinking. His attention was all on this ebony box at this moment. After opening the box, he looked at the scroll inside and used his spiritual energy to test it again. This time he saw a more vast spiritual space. After just one glance, he left this space. After all, it was not appropriate to practice or study at this time. It would be better to wait until he returned home to study. Looking up at Mr. Tang, Yang Tian said, "This is your Tang family's treasure. I can't accept this treasure for nothing. In return, I will help your Tang family get rid of 3 major crises." The spiritual treasure has its own spiritual image. What Yang Tian did was to give a reasonable explanation to both Mr. Tang and the treasure. What's more, he didn't want to stay in the Tang family anymore. After all, he wanted freedom. Mr. Tang's face lit up. He didn't expect that the other party would take the initiative to say such a thing. He said excitedly, "Are you serious? When is what I say false?" Yang Tian said. Mr. Tang realized later that he had said the wrong thing out of excessive excitement, and quickly said, "Thank you, Xiao Yang." Helping the Tang family survive 3 major crises was already a pleasant surprise for him. "Xiao Yang, have some more of this foie gras is also very delicious." Mr. Tang was in a good mood, and even asked his servants to take out his collection of old wine and poured a glass for Yang Tian. "This is a bottle of century-old stuff that I bought, I must drink some today." Seeing the wine, Yang Tian's eyes lit up slightly, and his mood became more excited. "Hard goods. Drink, drink, drink." "I'll toast you a glass," said Mr. Tang. The two of them talked and drank happily. Outside the Tang family's door, the little bodyguard had already passed the message to Heilong, who also related to the old lady. "Master Yang said that he has nothing to do with Tian Tangshi. Let's talk about it after he finishes his meal." After Heilong finished speaking, he swallowed his saliva and thought to himself that Yang Qian was so awesome. When the old lady and others heard this, they were already extremely anxious. Time waits for no one. She immediately became anxious. How can this be? How can you ignore human life? Cough, cough, wow. The old prime minister spat out another mouthful of blood. In just a few minutes, half of the small bucket carried by the servant was filled with blood. If he continued to cough like this, he would probably die from excessive blood loss. I can't hold on any longer. The old prime minister can't hold on any longer. Old Liu gritted his teeth beside him. First, send him to the hospital as soon as possible. Mr. Chiu became anxious. This was his close friend of many years. But the hospital has no way to treat it. Old Liu continued. There is no other way, we have to treat it. Everything will be fine once we stabilize him. We can only send him to the hospital now. Several people said as they prepared to carry the old minister to the hospital. Lao Xiong also had a bumpy journey. When he discovered the problem, the hospital had already given him a death sentence. When he was about to give up, he suddenly thought of the young man he met that day. After all this, he started vomiting blood before he even left Qiantang Hospital to seek treatment. When he found the Tang family, they were half soft and the situation became even worse. Now he had to go back to the hospital. The old lady saw a few people carrying her son away and wanted to follow them, but thinking of Yang Qian, she chose to continue waiting where she was. Tell him that we can satisfy any conditions he wants, and we can give him all the wealth and glory he wants. The bodyguard nodded and had to continue conveying this message to Yang Qian. When it came to Yang Qian, he shook his head to indicate that he did not accept it, and this time he did not say anything more. During this entire hour, he long couldn't remember how many times he had looked for Yang Qian, but each time ended in failure as Yang Qian remained unmoved. Meanwhile, Yang Qian had finally finished eating and was a little tipsy. The wine in this city tasted completely different from the wine brewed by his master. It was very spicy and had very little real fragrance, which gave it a different flavor. Master Yang, the old lady said that if you can go out, she can do anything for you. The little bodyguard came in again to pass on the message. This time Yang Qian waved his hand to interrupt him. During the time he was having dinner with Mr. Tang, this old lady had annoyed him many times. Seeing this, Mr. Tang next to him felt a little sorry and said, Xiao Yang, why don't you help the old lady? She should have realized her mistake. Then he said, Qiantang House also has a lot of antiques and treasures. They have rich resources and may be able to help you find a lot of things you are interested in. Oh, now I remember. Tianshi has connections with almost all antique circles in the mainland. They are well informed. Last time, they also mysteriously got something similar to this box of mine. Old Master Tang seemed to have thought of something and continued. Hearing this, Yang Qian fell silent. After thinking for a moment, he said, then let's go out and take a look. If it is true as Mr. Tang said, this Qiantang house will be of many benefits to him. As for the people who owed him money, he deliberately delayed coming out. They should have learned enough lessons. He was not someone who could come at any time and do whatever he wanted. The young bodyguard next to him was relieved to see Yang Qian was going out, and he actually felt inexplicably happy in his heart. Yang Qian followed Mr. Tang to the front door of the Tang family. Seeing that only the old lady and the servants were left, he asked, where is the old lady? When the old lady saw Yang Qian coming out, she burst into tears of joy and knelt down with a plop. Master, please save me. Yang Qian looked at the old lady, knowing that she had repented a lot during this period, and said, just take me to the old lady. At the central hospital, the old lady said hurriedly, wanting the servant to drive, but Yang Qian waved his hand to indicate no need, and ran towards the central hospital alone. He calculated the time and felt that if he got in the car at this moment, the old lady would most likely miss the best time for treatment. Hey, master! Get in the car. The old lady didn't understand what Yang Qian was going to do, but time was running out, so she could only order the servants to follow Yang Qian's back. Chapter 19, Life and Death. Haisha, Central Hospital. Where is the patient who was just carried in vomiting blood? Yang Qian arrived at the hospital front desk at an extremely fast speed. Because it was already night, the nurse at the front desk still had an impression of the patient at night, so she immediately said, in the operating room of the emergency room, who are you to this patient? As soon as the nurse finished speaking, Yang Qian had disappeared at the front desk. Huh? Am I dazzled? The young nurse was a little confused. Where was that person just now? Yang Tian strode straight to the emergency room. When he arrived at the door, he saw room 08 marked as under surgery. He was about to push the door open, but was stopped by the nurse at the door. Sir, you are not allowed to enter the operating room. As a friend's family member, you can only wait at the door. The nurse had a firm attitude. After all, during the operation, if the family members broke in, it would affect the doctor's surgical progress. Matters concerning life cannot be taken lightly. Let me in, Yang Tian said. If they delay any longer at this moment, the old minister's life might really be lost. We know you are very anxious now, but you really cannot go in. Your family members just need to wait quietly outside. The young nurse at the door refused to let them in. Yang Tian frowned. Why did he feel that there were so many rules in the urban hospital? Calculating the time, the best time for treatment is getting shorter and shorter. Looking at the young nurse in front of him, Yang Tian let out a hiss. It seemed that he could only attack the young nurse once and force his way into the operating room. However, just as his hand was about to touch the nurse's shoulder, two familiar figures ran over. The old players in the hall, Mr. Liu and Mr. Chiu, had just returned from completing the hospital registration. When they saw Yang Tian at the door of the emergency room, their eyes lit up. Young man, you're here. There was a rare excitement on Mr. Chiu's tired face. I knew you would just sit there and do nothing, young man. Old Liu was equally excited. But Yang Tian didn't have time to care about these things at this time. He just said, let me in. Now both Elder Chiu and Elder Liu began to look troubled. How could they let the person in when the operation was in progress? The nurse at the door looked at Yang Tian with strange eyes. Is this person sick? Can't he understand what she is saying? Seeing the hesitant expressions of several people, Yang Tian made a tsk sound, ignored them, took a few steps forward and kicked open the door of the operating room. The high-level protective iron door was kicked open so easily by Yang Tian, which made everyone present stunned for a few seconds. This is an iron door, is it really that fragile? What are you doing? Someone come quickly. The nurse screamed when she saw Yang Tian kick open the door of the operating room. When the attending doctors in the operating room heard the noise, they all looked up. Such noise was undoubtedly fatal to them. How could someone come in? Get out. A man in doctor's clothes hurried over to stop Yang Tian. Isn't this nonsense? Didn't you see that the doctor was treating the patient? Don't you know that you can't enter the operating room during treatment? Do you still want to save the patient? Said the irritable young doctor. In this kind of emergency, a matter of life and death, yet such a person broke in. Elder Liu and Elder Yang standing by were also horrified when they saw this. What did they just see? Yang Tian actually kicked the door of the operating room open. This is horrible. At the same time, the old lady and others also rushed to the hospital. Seeing this scene, they almost fainted. Although he was curious about why Yang Tian came to the hospital earlier than them, he was more concerned about his son's condition at this time. Quick, save Xiaoxian, the old lady's voice trembled. Get out, get out. Zhang He was still driving Yang Tian away. However, Yang Tian did not give in. Instead, he walked further towards the old prime minister, which made Zhang He very embarrassed. The surgeons in charge were a little overwhelmed. Their hands kept moving, but they still said, family members, please cooperate with us and leave the operating room as soon as possible. Yang Tian took a step forward and observed these modern instruments, which were things he had never seen before. Because most of the people in the operating room were busy, no one could stop him, and he came to Lao Xiang smoothly. Zhang He, who was standing nearby, saw this scene and became anxious. He gritted his teeth and tried to pull Yang Tian back, but Yang Tian turned around and bumped into him, causing Zhang He to fall to the ground. Yang Tian, who came closer, so that the attending doctor was actually operating on the liver. His brows raised and he shook his head helplessly. If the operation was made in the wrong place, how could the patient survive? The attending doctor next to him saw Yang Tian approaching, his thoughts were instantly disrupted, and he said angrily, "Don't come over." But just as he finished saying this, the instruments in the ward began to make various noises, and several doctors who were watching the instruments suddenly became panicked. Oh no! There's an imbalance in the lung breathing. Insert a ventilator, said the doctor next to him, and the other doctors began to act in a hurry. Oh no, his heart is about to stop. Get MECT treatment. No, his body can't bear it. Drop. In just 5 seconds, this sound stopped all the doctor's actions. The EKG stopped beating. The patient died. Everyone present fell silent. The attending doctor looked at the scene in disbelief, his body trembling. He looked at Yang Tian next to him and wanted to beat him up. Do you know that it's all your fault? This person could have been saved. Xiao Xiang. The old lady burst into tears. She reacted and ran over quickly. Elder Qiu and Elder Liu also widened their eyes, not wanting to accept this result. Impossible, absolutely impossible, how could such a strong man die? Everyone was very excited except Yang Tian, who had a blank expression on his face. He easily caught the punch from the attending doctor. At the same time, because of the noise just now, the dean and others also came to the operating room. When they saw Yang Tian, their brows also frowned. Young man, do you know what you just did? You are fully responsible for causing such consequences. The dean seemed calm. Yang Tian disagreed and said, as a doctor, you should understand the condition of the disease. If you don't know the condition, how can you treat it? His words were undoubtedly a provocation. The dean's eyelids twitched twice. The attending physician gritted his teeth and said, are you mentally ill? You are a doctor and I am a doctor. How could I not know his condition? Then he added, who was it that didn't take good care of the person who ran out of the neurology department? I won't treat this person anymore, and I won't be a doctor anymore. As he said that, he took off his coat and pretended to walk out angrily. The attending physician was angered, and the other doctors also started to blame Yang Tian. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, the patient would have died. Do you understand the best time to treat the disease? Now everyone is dead. Are you satisfied? You murderer. Chapter 20, Take Action Again. The atmosphere was heavy, and everyone was blaming Yang Tian at the same time. Yang Tian didn't say anything, he knew exactly what was going on. It must be fake. Lao Xiang can definitely be saved. Old Liu couldn't accept this reality. The old lady was wiping her tears alone, and after a long time she said, Master Yan, can you cure Xiaxian? At this time, the old lady could only hold onto the last glimmer of hope and looked up at Yang Tian. Of course. Yang Tian agreed immediately. To other doctors, Lao Xiang seemed to be dead, but this was just because they had missed the best time. Lao Xiang still had a breath of life in his heart. As long as they grasped the opportunity, there was still a chance that he would wake up. Then I would like to ask Master Yang for help. The old lady wilted, tears rolling down her face. All she could do now was to give it a try. She absolutely could not accept such an outcome. Madam, you actually asked this lunatic to treat you. The attending doctor was so angry that he was shaking all over. He's crazy. How can this person live after he died? The dean looked at Yang Tian, somewhat speechless, and said, since the family members agree, and this young man said he can treat it, then let him do it. Then he said, if you can cure Lao Xiang, I won't do anything to you. We will just pretend it never happened. If not, just follow me in. Anyway, the person is already dead, so there is no harm in letting Yang Tian treat him again. Dean, even you. Catalyst gritted his teeth, but was glared at by the dean. This time he stopped talking immediately and shut up. Yang Tian noticed this change in the two people, and without saying anything, he walked towards the old man. Why did he suddenly fall ill? Today is not the time for him to fall ill. Yang Tian asked himself and looked at the old GU players next to him. Seeing this, Elder Qiu and Elder Liu felt a little guilty, but they still said, you went to Qian Tangshi today to buy the porcelain vase and told the old minister what he said. The old minister didn't believe it, and then what happened? Yang Tian wondered. Then Lao Xiang smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day, insisting on proving what you said. Mr. Qiu was a little embarrassed. Har, we are trying to persuade him. Yang Tian's eye twitched when he heard that. Iron Lung? 4 packs a day. This is what the old prime minister wanted to do himself. Sighing helplessly, Yang Tian did not ask any more questions this time. Instead, he started to activate the spiritual energy in his body. The silver needle reappeared, and Yang Tian stabbed it towards the old man's lungs. These operations were all done smoothly, but the catalyst student standing next to them wanted to say something, but was stopped by the dean. Silver needles cannot be inserted directly into organs. Although catalytic biology is Western medicine, Chinese medicine also understands it. In his opinion, Yang Tian is a complete lunatic. Return. Yang Tian said lightly, and stabbed the old minister's heart with a silver needle. The moment he pulled out the silver needle again, the electrocardiogram began to fluctuate. Beep, another sound rang out, and the eyes of the people around widened instantly. The electrocardiogram is moving. What does this prove? Lao Xiong has survived the gates of hell. This is incredible. Old Chiu stared at Yang Tian with wide eyes. Xiao Xiong, are you okay? The old lady looked at the test on the electrocardiogram. Their heartbeat was basically stable. The dean, catalyst student and others nearby widened their eyes in surprise when they saw this scene. Just a few injections saved the life. Impossible, absolutely impossible, I have never seen such a situation. Catalyst gritted his teeth. What is this, resurrection? If this is true, wouldn't it be a miracle in the medical field? Zhang He, who had just stopped Yang Qian, also began to become confused. However, Yang Qian ignored the situation of the crowd and continued to help Lao Xiong with the treatment. The silver needles seemed to have life in his hands, rising and falling in a regular pattern to perform treatment. After nearly 5 minutes, Yang Qian put away all the silver needles, exhaled a breath of foul air, looked at the other female doctor next to him and said, "Sew up his wound." Yes. Yes. The female doctor did not dare to delay and hurriedly took out the needle and thread to carry out the final winding process. In just a few minutes, Yang Qian saved this life. Master Yan, my son. The old lady hurried forward to ask. He's recovered. He'll be awake after the anesthetic wears off. Yang Qian said. The old lady cried with joy upon hearing this. Thank you, Master Yan. Then she looked at her son's face and said, Xiao Xiong, when you wake up, you must remember to repay Master Yan. He saved your life. After seeing the scene in front of him, the catalyst could only admit defeat, and he kept quiet and stopped talking. In fact, he had already determined when the people from Tian Tangshi first arrived that Lao Xiong's surgery would be very dangerous. The probability of saving the patient was already low, and with Yang Qian's inexplicable intrusion, he was thinking that it would be better to put the blame on Yang Qian, so that no one would say that his medical skills were poor. But who could have thought that this young man who broke in actually saved the patient's life and helped him recover completely? This is just a slap in his face. The catalyst just felt embarrassed at this moment. The dean was shocked to see that the situation was stable, but he still asked curiously, "Young man, this is obviously a dying person. I am curious how you saved him." Yang Qian glanced at the dean calmly and said, "He faked his death." The dean's eye sparkled at this time, and he looked at Yang Qian as if he had seen a genius, and said hurriedly, "I wonder if you are interested in coming to the central hospital. I don't require you to work, just a title." Hiss. When the people around heard the dean's words, they looked at Yang Qian in shock. The central hospital of High City, that's where everyone is scrambling to get in. Just because he saved one person, the dean actually asked Yang Qian to be listed as a member. Upon hearing this, Yang Qian shook his head to indicate that he was unwilling. Seeing this, the dean was quite moved and did not continue speaking. He suffers from severe ischemia and needs some follow-up treatment. He should have symptoms such as vomiting and weakness when he wakes up. Don't worry too much. Yang Qian said again, and then asked the nurse and others to send Lao Xiong to the ward. Lao Xiong, who had just been sent to the ward, gradually woke up and his eyes began to focus. After seeing the people in front of him, especially Yang Qian, Lao Xiong sighed helplessly. With such a scene, he had probably guessed the situation. It must be the person in front of him who saved him. Thank you, Master Yang. Lao Xiong uttered a few words with difficulty and felt his breathing became much smoother. Xiao Xiong, wu, you are so ignorant. The old lady was crying and sobbing. Lao Xiong wanted to reach out to comfort his mother, but his body was weak, so he had to give up. Yuana, go write an invoice for 50 million to Yang Da. The old lady suddenly thought of something and immediately ordered the servant next to her to do the job. Chapter 21 Medical Competition. The old man lying on the bed shook his head helplessly. Having been through a life and death situation, he now understood a lot of things. Looking at Yang Qian in front of him, he felt a little regretful. The customer he wanted to cheat that day turned out to be his savior. This change is also laughable. The old lady noticed that the old minister's eyes lingered on Yang Qian, and immediately said, "Little minister, your life was saved by Master Yang. You were on the operating table and the electrocardiogram stopped. You must be grateful to your benefactor." The old minister nodded to show that he understood, and then said, "Master Yang, you saved my life today. From now on, I am willing to work like a slave for you. You still need to cultivate yourself, no need to say more." Yang Qian said, and then said, "If you really want to thank me, you might as well recommend more precious antiques." Seeing that Lao Xiang's condition was stable, Yang Qian prepared to leave immediately. Since Lao Xiang was fine, there was no need for him to stay here. The old man on the bed nodded without saying anything more. His body needed rest at this moment. "Master Yang, won't you stay and sit with me in Qiantang Hall for a while?" the old lady asked. "Let's meet again another day." Yang Qian waved his hand and left the ward. After leaving the central hospital, Yang Qian's eyes were filled with excitement. He stretched himself, and he was finally liberated. "I can go home and see those treasures." Thinking of the goods he bought today, he could no longer contain his excitement and rushed home. When he got home, Yang Qianxian casually washed up and took out the treasures he had found in Qiantangshi this morning. These treasures did not have much spiritual energy, so he quickly absorbed it all. Feeling the power filling his fingers, Yang Qian took a deep breath. This spiritual energy is still too little. Although it is little, it is not without effect. It seems that I will have to buy more in the future. Having made up his mind, Yang Qian decided to make more money in the future so that he could improve his cultivation faster. After absorbing the spiritual energy of these antiques, Yang Qian also turned his attention to the Tang family's ebony box. Looking at the box, his face began to show excitement. This thing was a treasure that determined whether he could break through. Yang Qian spread his spiritual sense around and realized that there was no one around. He then opened the ebony box and reached in again with his spiritual energy. The black scroll was hit by the spiritual energy and gradually turned into gold, bringing Yang Qian into their vast space. This time, Yang Qian also clearly saw the space hidden in this black scroll. Vast, mysterious, and powerful. Rather than calling it a space, it's better to say that this is a field formed by spiritual energy. This is a good thing. Yang Qian's eyes sparkled. This treasure from the Tang family might really help him break through the heavenly mirror image. The spiritual energy in today's cities is thin, making it difficult to practice cultivation. The existence of such a treasure can only be imagined but not sought. Yang Qian lowered his head and absorbed a trace of spiritual energy from the scroll space. He felt that every cell in his body was excited. "It's so pure!" Yang Qian exclaimed, lowered his head and entered a state of cultivation. Yang Qian was very relaxed here, but the situation at the central hospital on the other side was not so relaxed. Liu Shihui, director of the central hospital, was convening an emergency meeting at this time, and the topic of the meeting was the scene when Yang Qian was treating Lao Xiang. For this meeting, President Liu Shihui convened all hospital staff, including Chinese and Western medicine practitioners, because the medical skills demonstrated by Yang Qian completely shocked them. If there is a discovery, this may become a new benchmark in medicine. During the meeting, everyone looked up and watched Yang Qian's acupuncture techniques on the big screen carefully. Liu Shihui had enlarged the camera as much as possible to observe carefully, but all the doctors in the hospital had watched it at least 10 times and still could not understand Yang Qian's techniques. His technique is too mysterious. The places where the needles land are very strange. It's impossible to understand it at all, said the old Chinese doctor. From what I can see, there is no trick involved. It was just luck, said the old man next to him. He is an expert in the hospital. Just based on this video, he was completely confused. He felt that being summoned to a meeting in the middle of the night was simply an insult to his intelligence. Dr. Qi, there is no such thing as luck in the medical field. You have been practicing medicine for so long, and you can still say such unreliable words. Liu Shihui said. HMPH. Dr. Qi's face turned cold and he stopped talking. He was just angry. Have you checked Yang Qian's information? Asked another female doctor nearby. I checked and found that he doesn't belong to any hospital and the information shows that he has no relatives, the doctor next to him replied. These words made Liu Shihui's eyes suddenly light up. Not belonging to any hospital and still alone, doesn't this leave him a chance? He originally thought that Yang Qian rejected him because he had a hospital to work for. Now if he could recruit a genius like Yang Qian to his own hospital. Thinking about the medical competition in the near future, Liu Shihui had an idea in his mind and said, in a while, High City will join hands with other hospitals to hold a medical competition. Do you have any candidates to participate? No. Several doctors shook their heads at the same time. Dean, do you want to? Old Dr. Qi frowned and looked at Liu Shihui. Yes, I want to recruit Yang Qian to our hospital and let him participate in this competition. Liu Shihui said loudly. Are you serious? One of the doctors stood up excitedly. Dean, I think you need to think about this more. Catalyst frowned and clenched his fists. Wasn't it said that he was the most likely candidate for this competition? What was going on now? Yes, Dean, we are not familiar with Yang Qian, and he is not from our hospital. Isn't this nonsense? Several doctors all voted against it. But Liu Shihui was not panicking. He didn't know where his intuition came from. If he could recruit Yang Qian to his hospital, Yang Qian would give him a miracle. After thinking for a moment, he said, what if Yang Qian gave everyone an explanation that would satisfy you? Nonsense. Dr. Qi denied. I think you, Dean, have gone crazy too. I strongly disagree with what you just said. I will not open the meeting now. Go back to sleep. After he finished speaking, Dr. Qi stood up and left the meeting room. Dean, please give it some more thought. The other doctors followed suit and left the meeting room. Only Catalyst clenched his fists. He knew Liu Shihui too well. He was a weird person who would never give up once he had an idea. Thinking that his place in the competition might be taken away by Yang Qian, he felt unwilling. He gritted his teeth and swore secretly in his heart that he would never give up this opportunity. The screen was still playing the method Yang Qian used to treat Lao Xiang. For a moment, everyone had their own thoughts and Liu Shihui also fell into deep thought. Chapter 22 Tang Weiwei is blocking the door. The next day. It was already noon when Yang Qian finished his training. He slowly opened his eyes and exhaled the last bit of spiritual energy. Looking at the black scroll in front of him, he was a little confused, because he didn't wake up willingly this time, but the spiritual energy absorption level of the scroll reached the barrier. Is there any limitation to this treasure? Yang Qian muttered to himself and began to ponder. Feeling the surging power in his dantian at this moment, his current realm is at least above the middle stage of the heavenly mirror image. If he wants to make a complete breakthrough, he still needs a large supply of spiritual energy. After realizing this, Yang Qian complained inwardly that it seemed like he would have to go to Daobao more often. After a quick wash, he prepared to go shopping at a nearby antique shop. Just as Yang Qian was about to open the door and go out, his cell phone rang, interrupting his steps. He looked down at his phone, which showed a recruitment notice from the Central Hospital. President Liu Shihui, the Central Hospital sincerely invites you to work here. The salary is excellent, and you can also participate in various competitions to win excellent prizes. Everything is subject to the interview. Yang Qian just glanced at the information and ignored it. He had no interest in working in a hospital. But just as he was about to turn off the screen, a familiar mobile phone number called in. Tang Weiwei's information panel flashed. Yang Qian hesitated for a few seconds and finally chose to answer the call. Hello. Yang Qian said first. Brother Yang, are you free today at noon? Tang Weiwei's nervous voice also came from the phone. Her words made Yang Qian full of question marks and he immediately asked, what do you want? There was a brief silence on the other end of the phone. After a long while, he said, I. Hearing that it was yesterday's incident, Yang Qian raised his eyebrows and deliberately joked, why, what do you want to do, Miss Tang? Huh, what can I do? Tang Weiwei's pretty face turned red instantly. She found that Yang Qian could always poke her easily. Okay, stop wasting time. Why do you need to call me about this? Yang Qinbian said as he opened the door. Seeing Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao standing outside, he stopped talking and asked, why are you calling me at my door? Tang Weiwei was dressed very beautifully today. The little white dress and delicate makeup made her look like a fairy from the dust. Yang Qian couldn't help but sigh in his heart that there were such clever women in the world. It was obvious that Tang Weiwei had dressed up specially before coming to see Yang Qian. When she saw Yang Qian coming out, she nervously grabbed her other hand and said, I want to treat Brother Yang to a meal. Then, afraid of being rejected, she said, that hot pot is delicious. Yang Qian thought about it briefly and responded, then let's go eat together. Yang Qian promised her, which made Tang Weiwei's face suddenly full of joy. Then get in the car, we'll go now. Xiao Xiao, who was standing next to him, snorted coldly when she saw Yang Qian, but said nothing. At this time, in her impression, Yang Qian was already a bad guy. She really didn't know why her lady had to come and apologize. Yang Qian didn't agree with Xiao Xiao's attitude and got into the car at Tang Weiwei's invitation. A few people drove to the Sanyo hotpot restaurant, chose a seat by the window and waited for their food to be served. This hotpot restaurant tastes great, and the service is also great. Brother Yang, eat as much as you want today. Tang Weiwei said, and then saw that Yang Qian had been looking down at his phone, and said, by the way, Brother Yang, do you know that you are now a little famous and have become popular on the internet? Huh. Yang Qian looked up in confusion. He was actually processing the information of the central hospital just now. Then he asked, why am I so angry? Don't you know? Tang Weiwei looked at Yang Qian in surprise. The central hospital publicized your deeds of saving the patient yesterday. Although it was just a simple news report and not famous, you are in it. Here, let me show you. Tang Weiwei handed the phone to Yang Qian. What was reported on it was exactly what happened last night, but most of it was from the hospital's perspective and did not have much to do with Yang Qian. However, there were many comments discussing Yang Qian, such as whether this guy could really come back to life, but most of them were from the perspective of the honor of the central hospital. Seeing this, Tang Weiwei also said, fortunately, you didn't mention that you would come back to life, otherwise it would definitely cause a sensation. What will happen then? Yang Qian became interested and asked. Maybe they will be arrested. Or sent to the local research institute to make contributions. Tang Weiwei didn't quite understand what would happen exactly, so she could only speak vaguely. In response to this, Yang Qian shrugged slightly, indicating that he didn't care too much. His cell phone kept ringing, so Yang Qian had to deal with the messages first. Xiao Xiao, who was standing next to him, saw Yang Qian playing with his phone all the time and complained, how rude, playing with your phone all the time. When Tang Weiwei heard Xiao Xiao's words, she quickly covered her mouth with an embarrassed look on her face. Brother Yang is really busy. He has to work when he comes out. No. Yang Qian said, it was the central hospital that sent me a message asking me to go to the hospital to work, saying something about a medical competition. Medical competition. Medical competition. Tang Weiwei and Xiao Xiao said in unison. What's wrong with this? Yang Qian asked puzzledly. Tang Weiwei took a deep breath to calm herself down, then she said, this competition is very important. The league is for people from all cities, and it is related to the level of medical development. Not only can you gain high honors and status, but you can also participate in high-level venues in the future. Tang Weiwei paused for a moment, and then spoke again as if she had thought of something. By the way, isn't Brother Yang interested in antiques? If you participate in this competition and make a contribution and win, you can go to the largest auction house to auction your treasures. The treasures there are all collectibles. The largest auction house. Yang Qian repeated Tang Weiwei's words. Well, I'm not too sure about this. The people in Qiantangxi should know about it. They are very knowledgeable about antiques and treasures. Tang Weiwei said again. Yang Qian nodded upon hearing this, and was full of interest in this auction house. If this is true, then he can go to the auction house to take a look at the situation. Maybe he can come across the treasure he is looking for. The few of them were chatting happily, and the dishes were soon served. Yang Qian and the others were ready to eat, but before he could move his chopsticks twice, a strange feeling suddenly surged into Yang Qian's heart. This strange feeling instantly made Yang Qian alert, and he subconsciously said, Warrior. Huh? Brother Yang, what are you talking about? Tang Weiwei was still confused. Yang Qian was full of vigilance and looked in the direction of the spiritual energy fluctuations. Chapter 23, The First Appearance of Urban Warriors. Get down. Yang Qian shouted at Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao was still in a daze. At this critical moment, he reached over the dining table and pulled Xiao Xiao. And the glass near the window also shattered at this moment. R. The entire hot pot restaurant was instantly filled with screams. How could the window glass break? Tang Weiwei's face instantly broke out in cold sweat, and Xiao Xiao's body began to tremble. The waiter also rushed over at this moment to check the current situation. Yang Qian quickly locked onto the people who had caused the commotion, and with a slight wave of his hand, they instantly exploded into powder. At the same time, his eyes were also locked onto the area where the spiritual energy was fluctuating. "Miss, are you okay? Please leave this place first," said the waiter anxiously. Tang Weiwei and the others nodded, but just as she was about to pull Xiao Xiao away, she discovered a big cut on Xiao Xiao's left cheek caused by glass fragments. "Xiao Xiao," Tang Weiwei called softly, a little worried. Xiao Xiao's face turned pale and her body trembled involuntarily. Tears fell from her eyes because of the pain. "Let me do it." Yang Qian's eyes flickered. He helped Xiao Xiao clean the wound and gave it a simple treatment. Because Yang Qian's reaction speed was relatively fast, and Xiao Xiao's wound on the left face was considered too serious to a certain extent, the overall treatment was relatively quick. "Okay, there will be no scar on your face after the wound heals," Yang Qian instructed, looking in the same direction again. This time, the people on the opposite side had already evacuated the place, and Yang Qian also retracted his spiritual energy. This was the first time he encountered a warrior in the city. Although the opponent's strength was very low and did not pose a threat, it made him alert. "It seems that there are a lot of warriors in this city." Xiao Xiao nodded with tears in her eyes, and looked at Yang Qian helping her with her wounds. She seemed a little awkward, and after a long while she said, "Thank you." Yang Qian said jokingly, "A girl's face is very important, especially when she is so beautiful." When Xiao Xiao heard Yang Qian's words, her face immediately turned red, and she lowered her head and stopped talking. Why did she suddenly feel that Yang Qian was still a good person? But don't think that just because Yang Qian saved her, she can forgive Yang Qian for not saving the young lady that day. With a cold snort, Xiao Xiao turned her face away. The waiter saw this and apologized quickly, "I'm so sorry to have scared you. Does this guest need medical attention for the wound on his face?" "No need," Tang Weiwei said beside him. "What's wrong with the glass quality inspection of your hot pot restaurant? Why is it so bad? I originally wanted to invite Yang Qian over for dinner, but after what happened, my interest in dinner dropped a lot. I'll ask Grandpa to cancel the cooperation with you guys later," Tang Weiwei said angrily. The waiter next to her didn't know Tang Weiwei's identity, but hurriedly said, You are the eldest daughter of the Tang family. I'm so sorry." After venting her anger, Tang Weiwei felt helpless. She turned to look at Yang Qian and said, "Brother Yan, shall we go to another restaurant?" "No more eating. You should go home with Xiao Xiao first." Yang Qian had no appetite at this time. Tang Weiwei felt a little sorry when she heard this, but when she saw the wound on Xiao Xiao's face, she said, "Let's eat here again next time." Then she said to the waiter, "Call out your boss. Then I'll leave first." Seeing this, Yang Qian did not stay in the hot pot restaurant, but chose to leave. When Tang Weiwei saw that Yang Qian was about to leave, she became even angrier and started scolding the boss who had just come over. Yang Qian left the hot pot restaurant and wanted to look for information about the group of warriors. Unfortunately, there was no spiritual information at all, so he had to give up. On the other side, the people who survived the attack on Yang Qian were sweating profusely. How could it be so horrible? The warrior took a deep breath and thought of the scene where his companion exploded and died beside him. He was so scared that his face turned extremely pale. If he had not used his protective treasure carefully just now, he would have exploded and died. Thinking of such an outcome, he felt a pang of fear in his heart. Looking at his shattered treasure, he couldn't believe it. That person just now was a warrior. And he was a warrior with a very high level of cultivation, even to a level that he dared not even guess. Otherwise, how could he kill his compatriot in an instant with just a glance? Fear spread throughout his body for no reason, and he wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. "How is it, did you kill him?" A familiar voice came from not far away. The person was Tang Lan. His voice frightened the warrior, and after seeing who was in front of him, he took a deep breath and said, "No, no." Tang Lan frowned when she saw him alone and asked, "Where are the others?" "The rest are dead." The warrior suddenly covered his face, his eyes filled with fear. "Dead?" Tang Lan asked in disbelief. "Well, that person is extremely powerful, not just ordinary powerful. I can't complete this mission, so I won't do it," said the warrior, wanting to leave. "Didn't you say you were very powerful? How come you can't even handle such a small thing?" Tang Lan frowned, feeling a little annoyed when he saw the warrior's appearance. The reason why he wanted to kill Yang Qian again was because Yang Qian blocked his actions against Mr. Tang. He originally thought that Yang Qian would not help the old man again, but he never expected that he would suddenly intervene. With his guard up, he invited this group of warriors who claimed to have completed their mission 100% to take action. But the result brought to him by the warrior was this. There is no way to kill Yang Tian. Please, no matter how powerful we are, we will not give up our lives. We will not accept any missions from him in the future. The warrior said and left. Tang Lan stood there lost in thought. Seeing the cell phone that the warrior had left behind in a hurry, Tang Lan opened it and checked the messages inside. A file named Assassination. He knew in his heart that this should be the message left for him by the warrior. Because such professional teams will keep a copy of the evidence of the assassination on a new mobile phone, which makes it convenient to ask for the reward after the assassination. On the one hand, it is to prove that the information is true, and on the other hand, it also provides more protection for the employment relationship. I clicked on the file out of curiosity, and a video lasting more than a minute began to play. Tang Lan watched the video carefully, and only saw the last few seconds when the bodies of the warriors in front began to explode and disappeared directly from the camera. Seeing this, Tang Lan's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Looking at the blood produced by the explosion, it actually splashed on the ground next to him, which made him feel uncomfortable and nauseous. He vomited with a sound of "ugh." After a moment's rest, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and made up his mind. If he wants to deal with Yang Tian, he still has to find another way. Chapter 24. Is this the son of destiny? Since Yang Tian couldn't find any warrior, he could only go to a nearby noodle shop to eat noodles. It still tasted the same old way. Yang Tian was very satisfied. After paying the bill, he swept through the entire antique street in High City. Having helped the Tang family and Zhang Tianshi solve their problems yesterday, he now had at least 100 million yuan in his pocket. After transferring the money from the invoice into his bank card, Yang Tian walked towards the antique street. After taking a few steps, he felt the spiritual energy filling the air in a certain shop. Looking up again, he saw a sign hanging on the door of a small shop. It had only one word on it. Although he didn't know what the theme of this store was, Yang Tian still walked in. When he saw that the floor of the store was full of stones, especially a few of them, he frowned. Isn't this a spiritual stone? The boss saw Yang Tian coming and immediately went up to him. Want to gamble on stones? How do we play this? Yang Tian asked back. The boss's face lit up when he heard this. He immediately knew that Yang Tian was a rookie. After observing how he dressed, he said, "The rules are very simple. You just need to choose a stone that you like from these stones, and then put it on the cutting table for someone to cut it. If your stone has material inside, such as jadeite if you are lucky, these are very expensive. You can get rich with just one gamble. Do you want to play a few games? This is the 100,000 yuan area, and there are different price ranges above it. You can choose for yourself." Hearing this, Yang Tian nodded and instantly understood what the boss meant. With so many colorful spirit stones in front of him, how could he miss the opportunity? Then let's play a few rounds. Please, said the boss. Yang Tian also started picking stones. These stones are of different sizes, and the strength of the spiritual stones contained in them is also different. Although Yang Tian cannot see what is inside the stone, he can feel whether the stone contains spiritual energy. After finding all the stones containing spiritual energy, Yang Tian began to move them aside. When the boss standing by saw Yang Tian holding so many stones at once, his eyes suddenly lit up. It seems that this guy is a rich man. Young man, do you need a flashlight? The boss stepped forward to sell his product. Yang Tian glanced at the thing in his hand and shook his head to refuse. No need. Seeing this, the boss had to step aside and continue waiting. In just 10 minutes, Yang Tian found no less than 10 stones. The customers who were gambling on stones in the store nearby saw Yang Tianshi grabbing things around and all shook their heads. This is going to be a great bargain for the owner of this gambling stone field. These stones all look quite flat, no one would normally choose these. Under normal circumstances, newbies don't know how to play, so they just need to suffer a little loss. Several people whispered. Yang Tian heard it, but didn't say anything. He just continued picking stones. After selecting the area worth 100,000 yuan, he began to choose in order, and the stones he finally selected were almost as many as a large sack. The boss looked at the stones that Yang Tian had picked out in an exaggerated and incredible manner, and began to instruct the people around him to pay attention to whether Yang Tian was trying to cause trouble. The total value of these stones is at least tens of millions of dollars. Okay, that's all. Yang Tian signaled to the boss to settle the bill. The boss nodded and said, "What is your payment for the total of 60 million?" At this time, the boss's words also attracted the attention of many people. One of the old customers saw this scene, walked over with his hands on his hips and said, "What are you doing today? Is this the opening? This young man is almost booking the entire theater today." Old Fu said with a smile. Li Henshui next to him also smiled politely at Yang Tian, but there was a hint of wariness in his eyes, because few people have ever played like this in a place like a gambling stone field. Yang Tian naturally noticed the looks of several people. He said nothing and took out his bank card. Swipe the card. The two men then picked up their bank cards skeptically and started swiping money. With a beep, the more than 60 million yuan was swiped out in an instant, and the two men breathed a sigh of relief. After all, Yang Tian's consumption is so huge that people can't help but be suspicious. "Are we going to cut the stone now, young man?" the boss asked again. Yang Tian didn't quite understand what it meant to open the stone, but looking at the expectant eyes of the people around him, he still said, "Open some. I'll open it for this young man myself." Old Fu said as he walked to the cutting table with a happy face. How could he dare not treat a rich sponsor like Yang Tian? "Open this one first." Yang Tian picked out a stone with average spiritual energy and handed it to Lao Fu. Lao Fu took it and started the machine to cut it carefully. When a little green appeared on the stone, he was excited and said, "You are lucky, young man. This piece has some water material. If you don't need it, you can sell it to us. It is worth at least hundreds of thousands." "I won't sell this," Yang Tian said with a smile. If he sold it, how could he improve his cultivation? Then he said, "Can you help me get a few more pieces?" "Okay." Lao Fu was naturally willing to do this kind of thing, and started cutting the stone that Yang Tian handed over to him. When he opened the second piece, his brows furrowed again. This piece was the same as the previous one, both were in stock. He looked at Yang Tian suspiciously, denying that Yang Tian was an old hand, and then said, "You are very lucky, the second piece is also in stock." Yang Tian nodded, expressing his satisfaction with the result. This was all within his expectations. Seeing this, Lao Fu started cutting the third stone. When he saw a bit of green in the stone, his nerves suddenly tensed up. Li Henshui next to him also had a face full of nervousness and disbelief. "How is this possible?" Li Henshui said in surprise. This was 3 consecutive times he had come across something good. "Har har, young man, you are so lucky. It's rare to see such a situation," Lao Fu said, and then picked up another piece to cut. But when he saw the purple inside, his eyes widened. "How is it possible? This is the son of luck," Li Henshui exclaimed, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Yang Tian was unusual. The other customers in the store couldn't help but look forward out of curiosity when they saw the performance of Lao Fu and Li Henshui. When they saw the 4 stones being shipped, they all widened their eyes. "Oh my god! 4 pieces in a row! This is so rare. I thought they were all smuggled goods, but they are actually all sold. This is the real way to get rich. Mr. Fu, just imagine, maybe this guy has taken away all the stones in your store," several customers said with a smile. Hearing this, Lao Fu broke out in a cold sweat and said, "How is that possible? Don't be kidding me." Then he looked at Yang Tian and asked, "Have you played this before?" Yang Tian shook his head to indicate that he had not. Seeing Yang Tian's sincere eyes, Lao Fu could only attribute it to Yang Tian's good luck. Picking up the 5th stone, Lao Fu said, "Let's open another one and see." Chapter 25. Let's take a gamble. Picking up the 5th stone, Lao Fu began to cut it carefully, and the people around him breathed in alertly. When the stone was half cut, Lao Fu was relieved that he didn't see any color. He said, "How can it be possible to keep shipping? Or is this guy just lucky?" But when he cut to the second half, a familiar feeling came into his heart, and Lao Fu's brows frowned instantly. The one holding the Tai Zulong sword was Xie Yang. However, Xie Yang was filled with deathly aura at the moment, and his whole body was in a horrible state. However, his pair of painful eyes stared at Yang Yu with resentment. When he saw that Yang Yu's heart was pierced, his eyes were full of an expression of revenge. "Because we are still above the clouds, looking down we see a vast expanse of white clouds, shrouded in mist, very beautiful. The white clouds reflect the sun's rays, very dazzling. Some of these men's wounds were caused by cuts from sharp objects, while others were caused by bullets. In a city, Kang Yun was meditating in a simple inn. As sunset approached, Gudan and Iluo returned. He stretched out his hands, closed his eyes, and silently enjoyed the power of the 8 directions soul-locking formation to nourish his body. Okay, although I don't want to hurt you, I have my reasons for landing on the island. Just shoot. Fang Cheng looked at these armed men and said lightly. However, neither of them asked this question. They followed Zhao Wuji closely and continued to grope forward. Along the way, they unearthed several more landmines. 2 groups of secret sentries were also directly killed by Zhao Wuji. The 2 were amazed by what they saw. They really couldn't understand how Zhao Wuji did it, and they admired him from the bottom of their hearts. 8th rank spiritual weapons are extremely rare in the star field. Most of the 8th rank spiritual weapons from ancient times to the present are familiar to people, but unfortunately, very few people are fortunate enough to have seen them. Now, an extremely mysterious immortal and an 8th rank immortal weapon have descended on a second-class planet. This is huge news in this star field. I smiled helplessly. I had signed contracts with these 2 guys, and they just disappeared like that. At this time, there were no longer the jade-faced bloodbats flying around Pengjiamu, but there was an extra long jade-faced bloodbat that was half a person's height. Sun Huiying was such a spoiled girl, but she was so controlled by Anshu in just 2 days that she dared not even breathe. She just stared at the soup in the distance, lowered her head, and continued to eat the rice in her bowl. The ripples slashed on the ground, and the hard rock ground was peeled off a layer by this killing spree. At the final point of force, a large pit several feet deep was blasted out. Jiang Nan thought about this for a whole day, and only came out of the room in the evening. When she left the room, there was already a faint smile in the corner of her eyes. Tonight, Liu Shijie was dressed differently than before. He was wearing leather armor painted with silver paint and holding a silver sword, looking very majestic. His team members were also all wearing standard equipment, holding torches and silver weapons, which were obviously specially used to deal with the remnants. Har har har, no need. If possible, I would like to give him a bite. The Agwamai man laughed, his translucent face full of malice. No one wanted to maintain their horrible appearance. They all hoped to live a normal life. At this moment, they were eager to advance to their 4th form like the one in the courtyard. However, even the sage had not yet reached this step, so you can imagine how difficult it was. But Dao weapons are different. The number of Dao weapons is much less than that of Shen weapons, and the possibility of causing a big incident is much greater, and the reputation is naturally much greater. Therefore, any cultivator who has practiced Taoism for a long time can recognize almost all Dao weapons unless those Dao weapons have rarely appeared in the world since their birth. Chapter 26. Are you still a real man? There are still 9 pieces left. Ji Qiuhua said with a smile without much commotion after hearing this. When everyone saw him like this, they could only shake their heads helplessly. Isn't this just stubbornness? Next piece. Lao Fu had already handed the 2nd stone to Li Hingshui. Li Hingshui took it and began to cut it. There was no doubt that this piece was also a good one. They walked into their hotel, and at the stairs stood a middle-aged man in armor with a very serious expression. Kuan-Shing opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was caught off guard by the attack, and the dragon hated him so much that the power of his furious blow was so strong that it directly shattered the Taoist world of a top demon king. Mo Yinong approached the area, estimated the distance and then walked around the area. But the failure in Wanxian did not defeat Mao Zonghong. His mythical legend was far from over and might even have just begun. Han Feng followed Colin's instructions and indeed found a cave. The cave was dark and eerie, with cold wind blowing out from it. Xing Shijie named the new city directly. At this time, her mental power was working in the lighthouse. How long had it been? It seemed like a very long time had passed. But until now, no one had any sympathy or pity for her. Yu Renjie and Chula had stopped fighting since they heard the words of the silver-haired fairy. Although they were from the same sect, they were now in different camps and it was impossible for them to work together. In fact, Yu Xiu stared at her only because that body might belong to his sister, otherwise he wouldn't even want to glance at her. It's useless. The dark secret technique that I mastered, can you ants break it? The remnant soul of the demon sneered. Originally, he thought the same as Wang Shixiang, thinking that Chen Long was just taking advantage of the situation and Lin Qian was just lucky. Li Hao rushed over quickly, immediately pulled the bed curtains, and shouted at Lin Qian loudly, "What are you doing? The sunlight is very irritating to her. If her skin cannot get even a little bit of sunlight, she will feel excruciating pain and would rather die than live." Li Hao kept roaring at Lin Qian like a madman. Chihiro saw that the man holding his ID actually had a gun in his hand. Seeing Liu Qingqing fall down, Chihiro was running towards Liu Qingqing, and pointed the gun at the two security guards, turned around and rushed out of the store. She moved so agilely that she didn't even recognize a reporter. In addition to liking cats, he moved into Sakurasu, a place said to have many weirdos, for the sake of his cats, and began a series of youth stories. Liu Qingqing curled up in the bed, covering her mouth tightly to prevent herself from making any sound. Tears had already soaked her eyes, and her hands were shaking uncontrollably, but she could only swallow them. In the bedroom, the man's fierce voice reached her ears. "Just now you said that saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda, but this time you told me that it is not enough. What does the Qinher painting wall mean to you? What do the souls of tens of thousands of people in Qinher City mean to you? Because this is the Demon Suppression Division, an institution that maintains the stability of the Qin dynasty. Its main responsibility is to kill demons and monsters. Of course it also has some other side jobs. For example, the energy provided by a piece of crystal can produce 100,000 black light creatures, while elite beasts can only produce about 5,000. This is the totem of the Dark Iron-blooded clan. They act more like interstellar pirates. Any planet they visit will suffer misfortune. In a short period of time, the Rakshasa god, Bibi Dawn, will gain a speed 20 times faster than her own, and then kick the god of war Qin Qian in the head with a ruthless kick." A voice suddenly came from behind. Ji Yu Shizhen turned around, but did not see the person who spoke. Chapter 27 Clues to the Black Scroll. After being overturned by the favorable situation, Lao Fu and others also fell silent. How could they have imagined that things would turn out like this? At this time, it was like a dumb person eating bitter gospel and feeling extremely miserable. But they couldn't say anything at all, so Xiaoku had to admit defeat and said, "It seems that we underestimated the enemy. There really is a master hidden in this gambling stone field." The silent air spread out, mixing with the steam in the cramped room, taking away their moisture from the people. They licked their lips thirstily. This pot of beef and snake meat stewed with the fragrance of flowers and the medicinal effects and spiritual energy of spiritual herbs can be said without exaggeration that this stew is not just delicious, but can also increase a little spiritual energy and have the effect of tempering the body. At this time, Ji Yuan's mother, Mrs. Ji Yu, hurried over and apologized to Mrs. Yu with a red face as soon as she entered the flower hall. The Celtic Kingdom, which had the Frostmist Kingdom, Ronin Kingdom, and most of the Dawn Kingdom in the far west, was not to be outdone. Under the personal leadership of King Arthur, they divided into several battlefields and launched a protracted war with the Adla Kingdom. Their master and servant, one was determined to eat, the other was determined to chase, the two cooperated well, and finally they actually blocked the man in black outside the pavilion. They finally came to a profound understanding that Ji Yu was now so powerful that they could hardly imagine. Liu Sanqian felt her feet hurt. She didn't feel anything just now because she was running. Now that she stopped, she felt a sharp pain. She gently lifted her feet and found that her skin was scratched by stones in several places, and blood was flowing. "You are the acting elder of the Wu clan. Don't go to Tsuchen. Go back to the village and persuade the village chief. Just tell him that it was me who said it. You must succeed." Lao Di said. He focused his mind and was no longer careless. He stared intently at Wei Qingqing's pretty face, as if he wanted to see through her charming peach blossom eyes to see her heart. At the end of the third quarter, the score was 89-73. Fortunately, the three-pointers were very accurate today. Rebounds? Don't expect that, whether in the front court or the back court. 3 days later. Dongfang Xing really wanted to be stubborn and not say anything, but in the end, under the threat of a gun, he told everything he knew. To go from Dongyang dynasty to Dingtian Empire, Lu Shu first had to pass through Fengning dynasty. Luo Hong started from Hongtu City, and the route was exactly the route that Xu Esser took when he came to attack Hongtu City. Poseidon had been frightened by Brother Wuyo before, and forgot for a moment that there was a he who could tear apart the barrier he had set up with his bare hands. Now, he already knew what he was doing at the back of the temple, but it was too late to stop him, because he had already succeeded. When Feng's mind was in great confusion, and there were waves of throbbing in his sea of consciousness, as if reminding him not to be fooled, as the other party had set up a tight net to deal with him. Everyone was in the sea, surrounding the super tiger shark in the middle, but looking at the super tiger shark, it seemed that it didn't mind at all. One day, the yakshas brought a female yaksha to Xu Xing as his wife. Xu Xing was very scared at first, but later they got along very well. The female yaksha took good care of Xu and left some meat for Xu every time she went out. Zhang Jinlong is a professor at Huaqing University. As one of the top 3 universities in the Pacific region, Huaqing University has a good reputation for its faculty and hardware. As an academic leader of the younger generation of the university, Zhang Jinlong is also very proud and has become a guest of honor that many large groups are vying to recruit. As soon as the battle broke out, the Lu Mansion suffered great damage. From time to time, 1 or 2 spiritual powers and spiritual skills flew out and destroyed the buildings in the Lu Mansion beyond recognition. Chapter 28 Large Auction House. The Meng family bought this treasure at an auction a while ago at a high price. Later, they asked me to help them identify it, but the result was not satisfactory. I don't know what to do next. The old man grimaced because of the pain from slapping his legs. If Master Yang is interested, I can ask for you. Meng family. When Yang Tian heard this, he suddenly thought of Meng Guangren who had come to the Tang family to cause trouble that day. Ning Xiaoming's heartbeat almost accelerated because of this breath, for fear that he would do something irrational. What are you doing here again? Senner now only dared to stay away from Nicholas. Every time he took a step closer, Senner took a step back. Upon hearing this, everyone put down the bodies. From this point of view, Jun Moli did much better than Jun Suyu. Of course, there were some differences between the two sides. Jun Suyu was mostly orphans, while Jun Moli recruited soldiers on a voluntary basis. The blush spread from her cheeks to her entire body. Wu Ting was so shy that she could not bear it any more as her entire face was seen. Nearly 200 strands of vital energy transformed into force were pressing there. What a tremendous force that was, probably weighing several thousand or even tens of thousands of pounds. Not to mention him, even a cultivator at the 4th level of Qi refining could not resist it. But I want to ask, since I can predict everything, why did your first 5 princesses of Li still die? Jun Moli asked calmly. At that time, Chen Jin was kicked into the Jianlong Brigade because he couldn't control his hands. He was also a cutting-edge technical talent that the army was reluctant to throw away. After thinking about it for a long time, the superiors threw Chen Jin to Ning Xiaoming, letting them deal with the evil ones. Bai Suzhen was slightly startled when she heard Xu Xian's words. She didn't know what Xu Xian was thinking, but was Xu Xian stopping her at this time because he was afraid that she would affect him after treating others? Or was Xu Xian afraid that others would know that she, as Xu Xian's wife, had better medical skills than her husband? Guan Yijing stared at her intently, his eyes flickering a little, but his emotions were not too out of control. Wait. Do you have the imperial edict? Otherwise, if you surround the palace without authorization, you will be treated as a traitor. A voice suddenly shouted in Prince Qiu's palace. Sure enough, after Ling Yun finished speaking, after the Ling family warriors experienced excitement, and gratitude, a look of emotion appeared in everyone's eyes. Ha! Tang Xiaoyan drove the giant mecha, wielding the giant sword, and rushed towards the first ghostly ex-mecha. Li and Wang were ordered to capture the assassin, but they had to stand here and watch the two of them having fun. They were really worried, but they could only bear it and dared not say anything. Although he didn't know why Pai Jun appeared here, Wei Yizi's heart was inexplicably moved just by looking at Pai Jun snoring and drooling in front of him. Qingyi had just taken a sip of wine when she felt her waist tighten and Xiao Hua held her tightly with his arm. She wanted to slap him away, but he held her tightly and she couldn't move. After the order was given, 3 ghostly mecha warriors suddenly pulled out giant hell swords, 4 or 5 meters long. The posture of drawing the swords was really cool. Just like the killer god of hell. With faith, people like Hongfa will be able to rapidly improve their spiritual abilities, and then their ambitions will flourish. They will become even more reckless and will continue to act recklessly. If this continues, I am afraid that this chaotic world will not only be difficult to quell, but will only become more and more chaotic. This surprised Mr. He and Mr. Xie who were standing by. They were not surprised by Ji Yula's tone, but by Ji Yula's words, Ma Yi's lineage, because everyone knows that Master Guan is an unparalleled physiognomist, but few people know his origin and identity, so he makes people mysterious and respected as a semi-immortal. Everyone was silent. Without the boundary stone, how could they return home? Not to mention recovering their homeland. Chapter 29. He can't work in the hospital. Several people walked along the hospital to Liu Shihui's office. On the way, many people cast strange looks at Yang Qian, but Yang Qian ignored them. Liu Shihui also showed off his talkative nature, introducing the hospital as he walked and showing off his hospital to Yang Qian crazily. Our hospital is the largest hospital in High City, with the best qualifications, especially the latest equipment. I also decided that no matter what the outcome of this matter was, I would report it to my old man when I got home. Su Xiaoji's hand naturally stroked her bulging belly. She didn't dare to look at him, for fear that he would dislike her for becoming stupid. She never thought that she would be afraid of these things. Jiang Sini opened the lid and took a look, then laughed. It turned out that the tea inside was of inferior quality, old tea leaves. Liu Jun certainly had never tasted such tea before. Mu Hanjin looked at the situation in front of him and thought to himself that it was not good. He quickly turned around, gathered all the rain in front of him with his palms, pushed hard, and the round ball formed by the rain hit Shangguan Rui. When Guofen heard that Cao Yuanzhong was coming, he simply did not come out and just asked someone to send out desserts. The three of them chatted about some irrelevant things inside, and Zhang Mai couldn't help asking about the latest situation of some of the former members of the Guyi army. Let's go and meet those so-called international elite bodyguards. Lin Baobao said lightly, and then walked outside. As a result, many people looked at him with contempt and indifference, which made people feel uncomfortable. Duanmu Yang brought with him the memories of 1,000 years ago, but what about Gong Yiyan? And Long Yin, what kind of intricate relationship do they have with her? In Saicheng, Jiu Yefeng stayed in the house busy handling government affairs, while Feng Qianing lay comfortably in a rocking chair, enjoying the cool in the yard. Sometimes it is destined that you see the development of things, but you invisibly help the cause of things. Why have you never mentioned your master? The two sisters looked relatively young. Wu Yo was 20 years old and Wu Chen was only 17. I didn't expect that they had been practicing medicine for such a long time. At this moment, Danzo suddenly thought of a sentence he had read in Dream of the Red Chamber not long ago. But looking at the note Danzo gave him, it seems that things are not as the third Hokage said. Others might not understand why Shenfei suddenly stopped attacking, but Shenfei, as the person involved, knew very well what happened and was filled with shock. Whether it is the Red Star Park incident or the West District disaster, they may be related to something here. Their lack of intelligence does not mean that they are unaware of the danger, but this also causes their murderous intent to fully erupt. Such a big commotion attracted the attention of Wu Yang, Bai Huang and Wen Yang at the same time. Both sides stepped back and kept some distance to look at the changes. Ji Yunyan felt strange when he didn't hear Heepinger talking, and then he heard the rustling sound, so he felt Heepinger reaching out his hand, and he grabbed Heepinger's hand with a grappling gun. That's perfect. Then she doesn't have to explain to a Yu. If something is wrong, she can just say she went to the night market, right? Now their matter is still on the hot search list, and neither side has come out to explain. This is really not normal. Because if you resist and hurt the White Master, you're done for. It's a diplomatic dispute and no joke. A moment later, under the guidance of Nanying, Luo Qinshua came to a back garden of Qingxia Holy Gate. The jade slips contain detailed records and descriptions of the properties, grades, uses, etc. of each spiritual plant. There is also some common knowledge about spiritual plants, such as when to fertilize, when to water, how to weed and loosen the soil, how to catch insects and prevent pests. Basically, it contains everything. The Luo family, to which Luo Jin and Luo Lin belong, is the second largest family in the city. The largest is the Yi family of the city lord's mansion.